some reason, when you minimize it.
Okay, if you'll take your seats. Yeah. Yeah. All right, if you will take your seats, we will get started. Well, welcome to the final round of the 2026 Rice Business Plan Competition. So in just one moment, I'm going to announce the 7 finalists that will present today. And here is the way the day will lay out. We will have 4 companies present. We'll take a break, and then we'll have the final 3 companies present. Companies, you will have startups. You will have 20 minutes total to make your presentation and Q&A. 10 minutes for the presentation, just like it's been throughout the competition, and then 10 minutes for Q&A. Presenters, you'll see the time clock, which is right in front of me right now. It'll be right in front of you when you're up here speaking. What else I need to tell you? I will say this as your, I'll say this once or 10 times more, but companies, be ready 10 minutes before your presentation time right outside the door there. You're not allowed to listen to other presenters until you have presented. But once you have presented, you're welcome to stay in the auditorium and listen to the other companies present. So you can't listen. I'm sure you probably don't want to. You want to focus on your own presentation, but you can't listen at other companies' presentations until you have presented. And that's all the basic instructions for today. So let me tell you who's presenting. And I'm going to give these to you. This has been randomized, so these are in no particular order, but I am going to give these to you in the order that they are going to present today. First company, when you hear your name, I want you to come on down and start to get set up at the podium, get your computer set up and get mic'd. All right, the first of the 7 companies that'll be presenting today is Aero Analytics from Texas A&M University. Come on down. The second company they'll be presenting, this company you'll be presenting at 12:55. So be outside that door at 12:45. The second company presenting is DialySafe from Rice University. Where are you? Be outside at 12:45. 12:45. The third company they'll be presenting today is Brace from Michigan State University. Where are you guys? Where are you guys? Up there? All right. You're presenting at 1:20, so be out front at 1:10. All right. And we'll see you at that time. The fourth company presenting before the break is Imagine Devices from University of Texas at Austin. Where are you? All right. Where are you? Wave or something, or shout out. Over here. I see point. Oh, you're way over there. Is that you guys? All right, you're presenting at 1:45, so be out front at 1:35. All right, those are the 4 that are presenting before the break. The 5th company presenting today is Routura from University of Notre Dame and UT Austin. Routura, where are you? Where are you guys? Right here. Okay. Yeah, where? All right. Oh, up there. All right. Well, you didn't expect to be called, huh? Just kidding. See you at 2:25 in front of the door. 2:25 in front of the door. The sixth company presenting today is Alteras Medtech. Alteras Medtech from University of Arkansas. Where are you guys? I'm up there. All right, another one up there. I'm so bad at this and can't find anybody. You're presenting at 3 o'clock, so be out front at 2:50. 2:50, be out front. And the seventh and the final company they'll be presenting today is Legion Platforms from Arizona State University. All right, you're presenting at 3:25, so be out front at 3:15. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to John Reale, JR, who's going to MC for the finals.
It's fine. Thank you, Brad. So I said to Brad the other day, Brad, this is the last RBPC. Don't you want to MC the finals? Don't you want to see the whole thing through? And naturally you think Brad'd say, yeah, I want to do that. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. You do it. Brad wrote me into this a few years ago, and now this is part of, now instead of being volunteered, I'm voluntold to do so. I'm JR. It's great to be here. I'm excited to help MC the finals. We have 10 minutes of pitching, 10 minutes of questioning. I'll go around. We have runners. Where are our runners? Okay, we got Amit over here and Devron over here. They'll run around and help. I'll point for questions, and then we'll wrap up from there and switch out teams. So with that, let's turn it right over to Arrow Analytics from Texas A&M University. So. Mic check.
Okay.
One second.
So at 10 minutes, go.
We're Arrow Analytics, and we're reducing bag delays caused by carry-on baggage during using computer vision. And you may have seen us at this competition showing off this camera that we install in the airport ceiling. You may have heard us talk about our product, EasyBoard. You may have seen these installations that we have in Grand Rapids, pilots at Heathrow, in Pittsburgh. But when we came to the wildcard round this morning, we wanted to redefine the opportunity that we present to investors. So let me start again and tell you guys that we are Arrow Analytics, the first company offering 3D data for gate management. How did 4 college students get cameras into the airport ceiling that have never been there before? It all started with our CEO, Aku. He took 300 flights in nearly 3 years, and a third of them were delayed. But he knew he could make an impact. As an aerospace engineer and pilot, he assembled our team. Now, some people my age complain that you're looking for an entry-level job and they're looking for 7 years of experience. But that's Sam Crow, who at 21 years old has 7 years of software development and is a PhD candidate. Kareem is at the forefront of machine learning, innovating our models that train themselves on yesterday's data, images from our cameras, so that every single day, our software gets better. As for me, my background is in pharmaceutical sales, so I'm comfortable navigating a complex sales process with multiple stakeholders in a highly regulated industry. Our industry mentors have helped us every step of the way, collaborating on our current solution, future ideas, and business plan. We have this Jamie at Heathrow, Ryan at Southwest, and even Daryl here in Houston at Houston Airports. On the operational side, we're supported by tech executives with major exits and other C-suite professionals who have collaborated on our business plan. So what's going on with the bags? Today, industry professionals say that baggage is the single biggest driver of boarding time. We've interviewed hundreds of aviation professionals. Let me tell you what Scott says. He sees this on plenty of his flights as a pilot at Southwest. If one last bag is brought on that plane as a carry-on that's not going to fit, it has to be taken off at the end of boarding. That means they need to do a new weight and balances report. It goes to Dallas, to New Mexico, back to the gate. This adds 10 minutes to boarding time, sometimes even more. And this is a guaranteed delay when that last bag is let on board. Easy Board eliminates the last bag. Lance, a station manager at Southwest, describes this exact problem happening nearly 20% of the time at his gate. He's losing over $100,000 a year due to this issue. Well, not anymore, because for $30,000, we're eliminating it. This is our gate in Grand Rapids. This is where we have our Easy Board installed. I'll briefly explain the tech. We have 2 of these cameras in the ceiling. These depth cameras take measurements exactly when passengers board. So for the first time ever, airlines know exactly what's coming on their planes, and we're recreating it in the 3D space. These measurements we subtract from the known overhead bin totals, and we can provide alerts in real time to gate agents via a small dashboard. Operationally, we compile reports of this data and analytics to give back to airlines so that they can make decisions at every level. Our MVP shows measurements within 2 centimeters of accuracy. One airline we spoke to wants 97%. We're giving them 99. Here's a picture that's from our actual camera in Grand Rapids. As you can see, we're identifying the bags that go onto the plane. Right now, what we're doing is collecting baseline metrics for their gate operations and current delays so that after we install the dashboard, we can show them definitively the change we've made at their gate. We're also continuously training our model day over day on the images collected here. So far, we've tracked over 5,000 bags during 40 boarding processes. Our next steps are to install that dashboard and then go back to Grand Rapids to discuss a multi-gate rollout that they're requesting from us. We went to Heathrow. We did a 1-week pilot there where we demonstrated our cameras and that they can measure things at multiple points in the airport process. We talked to multiple stakeholders at that airport, and they are excited about the opportunities they can leverage with 3D technology. We're going back in June to discuss our full installation in detail. Now, how are we protecting this? We have a 3-pronged IP strategy. Our utility patent converts in May. Internally, we operate on zero trust principles. And we're designing proprietary camera technology to replace our off-the-shelf parts and further our competitive advantage. Our primary customer acquisition strategy is attending events and conferences where we get qualified leads, advisors, and in the door for 4 of our trials. Airports are our customers. They like the safety and innovation of this technology. But financially, they're gaining by shifting that cost over to the airline, who is willing to pay. But because of this, we would like to sell directly to airlines in the future because that's the opportunity for massive scale. So let's recap. We're in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They paid us $30,000 and we're at a Southwest gate. We've been to Heathrow and successfully demonstrated our tech, and we're going back to make that a full installation. And soon, we're also installing in Pittsburgh, expecting that in May. But we have so many other customers in our pipeline, including airports like Denver, Houston here in town, and Charlotte. These airports have over 100 gates. If we could address these customers, this represents massive opportunity for our data set and their efficiency. And it's not just airports. We are actively discussing with major airlines who want to buy this technology. But we do not have the capital today to put those cameras out there. Like, we do not have 100 cameras to give Aer Lingus tomorrow. That is where you guys come in. I'm going to pass it over to Akud to discuss our financials in more detail.
Thank you, Val. So let's discuss our financials, starting with our revenue model. We do a razor and razor blade model, starting with a free installation of our hardware to support adoption. Then we charge a $35,000 software license per gate per year. Our unit economics reflect that. Our upfront costs are just $3,600, giving us a 2-month payback period for us based on our hardware installation. Then we have up to 90% margins in yearly costs, composed of just data storage in the cloud and some in-person repair. But for our first year only, to support rapid scale and market adoption, we're planning on selling this for $7,500 because once we get in the gate, we could become the patented legacy system for 3D gate management. Switching costs in the air transportation industry are huge. Once we're in, we're never leaving. Here's our growth plan. We've already have 3 airports this year and many more in the pipeline. We expect to get conservatively 5 airports at the end of this year. These airlines, they want this technology. So we expect an airline rollout by next year, expand through their entire network. And since airlines are pack hunters, once they see one airline getting massive operational efficiency gains, they're all going to want in. Here's a snapshot of our financials. We've already earned $55,000 from our first pilot and from grants. And we may expect a small loss this year as we're getting our foothold. But as we grow, we're going to increase our margins, increase our revenue, and increase our net profit exponentially over time. That's why we're asking for $1.3 million. We're already doing testing. We're already in airports. We need this capital to get those cameras for the 100 gates. Airlines want this. We need the capital to help scale with them. And this is just one product. In our timeline, we've already scaled, we've already deployed at GRR, Grand Rapids. We've already done a 1-week trial at Heathrow. We're about to be in Pittsburgh next month. And we're about to go back to Heathrow to do a permanent installation in June. And all of these airlines, as I mentioned, could be in our pipeline for an airline rollout. And this is just one product. But the future could be so much more with this data. Detecting oversized bags, helping them understand the exact distribution of what's coming on their plane for the first time ever. New revenue streams like gate check insurance. You know you have a space on board at all times. And becoming the first truly 3D gate management system. We're already in airports as students. And so the question isn't whether we're going to be successful or not. It's whether you're willing to jump on board this plane before it takes off. So if you want your ticket, scan this QR code or take a picture because we would love to see you on board. Thank you.
Please raise your hands if you have questions. Yeah, Eric, let's start over here.
A lot of the airlines say if you've got like a computer in a backpack you put one in the overhead bin and then one under your seat. So how do you know, depending on, how do you deal with that variable of whether or not someone puts both of their bags in the overhead bin and then that causes the problem? How do you address that variable in the equation?
Yeah, we're able to identify during boarding which bags are carry-on luggage that'll go overhead versus backpacks and purses that will remain under the seat. Once on the plane, flight attendants are exceptionally skilled at addressing passengers' baggage needs and are fully capable and willing to help passengers make sure those bags are in the right spot. Where we see costly delays is where a gate agent can't fit extra bags in that overhead, that it's just not physically possible. So we're still relying on them to do that work. But the flight attendants we've spoken to, including several in Grand Rapids, are so excited to have something like this to make their job more predictable.
Thank you.
Over
sir.
here.
Okay.
Yeah. So well done. Question for you. Who owns the data? And if it is either the airline or the airport, can they use it for bigger problems like bad actors wanting to get on a plane?
Yeah, so we've thought about all these different factors, the different ways to use the technology. And what we're planning on becoming is a data platform. We expect that airlines and airports, they have uses for this that we can't even expect. Where our unique competitive advantage comes is that we are the first, potentially in the world, to have 3D data at the gate. What could you do with that? Security, bad actors, that's a huge one. There's several more. So we would rather give them the data and let them do what they want with it and help them if they need help. Yeah, so currently It's not tied into their system just because integrating with an airline and airport is a bit difficult when you're starting out. But they've already expressed interest that after these first tests, they would want to integrate more fully.
All right, we're gonna go to INL over here, and then we'll go up to Barbara in the middle, in the back.
So airline industry has up and downs. Yes, it's basically a low cost market. Have you looked more long term? Is this strategic or is it just a piloting phase? How much can you really see this be fully integrated solution to be standard versus just another pilot trial?
Yes. So currently we are piloting, but with all these airlines and airports in our pipeline, we want to become the industry standard for 3D data for gate management. All of the different use cases, they're on every single flight. Like you mentioned, airlines boom and bust in some ways, but people still need to fly every single day. And every single day, people bring too many bags on board. Every single day, people get into fights because there's not enough overhead bin space. So we believe that no matter what, airlines and airports are going to see value from the product.
They rent the gate for extremely long periods of time. We're talking 20 years minimum. And when they install something like this in the ceiling, they're not taking it out. That's what we've seen with legacy products that are currently in the space.
Exactly.
All right, let's go Barbara in the middle.
Yeah, hi. So you showed us a razor blade and razor model. So you pay for the upfront installation of the hardware. And then how long a period is the buyer on the hook for paying those monthly licensing fees?
Indefinitely.
I know, what's their contractual obligation for how long?
Oh, we contractually at this point, we do a year at a time.
So they can cancel after a year. They can cancel after a year.
They could.
Okay.
However, they don't want to.
All right, we're gonna go to John, and then we'll go to Andres.
So quick question here. You're recording video, presumably you're saving it, but you haven't talked about where the data is stored, whether it's in the cloud, how you're managing that piece of it. Who pays for that? Do you guys pay for that? Is that part of your overhead, the airline? And sort of, yeah, help us understand that side.
Sure. So just to clarify, you're saying the data storage aspect?
The video cost, right?
Sure. So in my unit costs, for each gate, we save 2 terabytes of data in the cloud. And we've already worked with our partners. Obviously, security, there's TSA, those are big things. And we've already gone through that with our partners. They've signed off on all the security regulations. We've shown them the cybersecurity reviews, and they're okay with having data in the cloud as we train our models. However, all processing is done on site, which was a requirement from them. So we were able to do that for them. And so once we go through our first pilot and our model is able to be used at several different gates, the actual data storage of video is really not that much. And so we are paying for it currently, but we don't expect it to be a huge cost by any means.
30 days?
Sure. So currently we store we've deployed for about 30 days right now. So we have about 30 days of data for our first pilot. But moving forward, thinking in the long term, this model, it's going to be used on data in real time. And so we're not going to necessarily store data from every single pilot. It's training the data right there.
Or we'll go to Hubert, then we'll go up to Andres, and then over to Michael.
Okay, so this is something you said when I listened to your presentation yesterday. You talked about the people, right? So the airline, just assume a flat 185 pounds per person boarding, right?
Yes.
So you talked about future opportunities all related to bags, but it sounds like the weight problem is a massive problem, right? Because they take on so much extra fuel just to account for that uncertainty. So why are you not looking at that? Because a flight taking out of Houston is going to have a lot more heavier people than flight taking out of Boston, right? Me guys. Right? But
Sure.
But I would assume that has a lot more value in many ways than just bags for these guys.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so thank you for that. So currently we're focused on this. We have traction right now for our first use case, which is overhead bin optimization, as we talked about. However, there's many things we can do with it. We just talked, Scott Reed and several other pilots. They just had a conversation maybe a week ago. We called them right before the competition. They were having an internal conversation about this exact topic. They have standard weights for passengers, 185 per passenger, which may or may not be correct. But baggage, the only other thing coming on board every single flight, they don't even track. They have no idea what is coming on board in the cabin. As a start, from going from 0, why don't we just start assigning standard weights to baggage? A check bag is, or sorry, a backpack is this much, a roller bag is this much, a duffel bag. At least that gets you within the ballpark. And then we can discuss as we enhance our product, how to get more accurate weights. But to your point about saving fuel, that's incredibly important for them. Most flights, they take on way more fuel than they need because they just don't have an accurate estimate or any estimate.
Sorry, we got to keep moving. We're going to go to Andres.
So guys, tell me a bit about your competitor set. I mean, computer vision's not unique to you guys. Airlines can do other stuff other than using the cameras. So what does that look like?
Yeah. First of all, I want to address the current competitors that are in the airport. And it's somebody with a clicker counting how many bags, and it's a metal baggage sizer that you need to pull someone out of the line and make them shove their bag in. Airlines are moving away from these because they're not working. That's why we're left in this area where they don't know what's going on and we're able to step in. As for computer vision in the space, there are startups in Europe, Bags ID and Zero G, that are addressing bag sizes in small pilots at startups in different places. Our advantage over them is, first of all, that they're in Europe, we're in the US. The US is highly regulated within the airports, and we've already addressed those security issues in a way that is repeatable. Additionally, they're using 2D cameras, the type of images that are already available in the airport. We're the only company putting 3D depth cameras inside of the airport that can recreate at the gate the size of 3D items. Additionally, there's big competitors in the space of just technology, period, that are not in this vertical. And we see them more as a potential collaborator at this point rather than competitor.
All right. And with that, that was all the time that we have. Please give it up for Arrow Analytics. And let's have DialySafe from Rice University head down.
Thank you so much.
That was good.
Want to bring your timer? Yeah. You're gonna carry the. Is it extended? right. On the business side, we're backed by 3 major accelerators: NIH Lab to Market, SWPDC, and NSF I-Corps. We'll be receiving coaching, official endorsements for 2 separate SBIR grants, and help with our regulatory and reimbursement strategies. Finally, on the clinical side, we received 2 LOIs from hospitals within the heart of the Texas Medical Center, the largest medical center in the entire world. There, we'll be able to get a very high quality, large data sample to help with our clinical studies. This following projection shows our J-curve growth. We project crossing the profitability threshold by 2030, and our break-even analysis demonstrates that DialySafe can become self-sustaining with just 2% of the entire US PD market, a highly defensible position that protects investors. To get DialySafe through regulatory de-risking, we're asking for a $2 million seed round. We've designed this ask to be lean. Rather than expand our team too early, we'll be using specialized third-party consultants and CROs to get us to our primary value inflection point, FDA 510(k) clearance. Here's exactly how we'll be allocating our funds. 55% will be going for operations and personnel, 20% for clinical and regulatory needs, 15% for IP and legal needs, and the remaining 10% for product development. Our strategy is simple. We use $2 million to secure our product and to get FDA cleared. Here's what our ideal investor profile looks like. We want someone that has connection to payer networks, someone who has experience navigating through the FDA landscape, and finally, someone with expertise in digital health and CPT code billing models. Here's our amazing team.
Hi, I'm Ibrahim. I'm the founder of DialySafe and the inventor of the technology, and I have a master's in bioengineering right here from Rice.
My name is Saif. I'm the co-founder and COO of DialySafe. I have my nano engineering degree from Rice, and I'm a current medical student. We have our CSO, Pavan, and CPO, Jay, who weren't able to make it today. We're backed by an amazing clinical team at the Texas Medical Center, and we have amazing help with regulatory and business, with individuals that have understanding getting through the FDA clearance and also have medical startup exits themselves. Thank you, and join us in saving lives in catheters. At DialySafe, we're turning hindsight into foresight. Thank you.
It's open to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. All right, let's go over here, Robert.
So have you discussed this with any payers and gotten any feedback about their likelihood that they will reimburse for this? And is there an existing CPT code?
Yeah, so we haven't engaged payers yet. That's what we'll use the NIH and the NSF programs for, to do the stakeholder interviews. However, this is a very common revenue model that a lot of remote health monitoring companies are using. And these CPT codes, they already exist. So we're using, you want to discuss the codes?
Yeah, so for the infection sensor hardware, it's a $20 one-time fee. And the remote patient monitoring, so this is a consistent fee per month. This will be $130 per patient.
Let's go over here, right over here, and then we'll go up to Amit.
Yeah, my question is related to your infection indication. So how are you protecting yourself, liability issues to the patients?
Yeah, so the way that we're using the data from the sensor, we're sending it to the clinicians. The clinicians, they are the ones that are making the decisions for the patients. So the patients, they just see the score from the sensor's machine learning models, but the clinician will be the one that initiates the treatment pathway if an infection is detected.
Richard.
Can you say something about what it is that it actually detects and how many bacteria it can see?
Where's the question?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Or can you raise your hand, sorry?
I'm up here.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
What is it that you're actually detecting? You know, what is it about the bacteria, membrane potential, mitochondria, et cetera, not mitochondria. And what do you think the limit of detection is? How many bacteria per mil can you see?
Yeah, so the way the sensor works is based off of magnetic induction spectroscopy. And so the way we have coils that wrap around the tubing that generate a magnetic field. Then the conductive material that's inside the fluid at like white blood cells or bacterial cells, or temperature changes in the fluid. So for example, if there's an infection, the temperature will go up, conductivity will increase. All these infection dynamics are measured by the conductivity from the sensor and the permittivity. And we sweep through a range of different frequencies so we can isolate the different components inside the fluid. Now this is an improvement based off of the optical based sensors that our competitors are using, which they just quantify the cloudiness in the fluid. So this goes a step further. It's not specific to the cells at the moment, but we can train the machine learning models to learn from the full spectral response to identify between those different cells. In terms of the limit of detection, we just completed running our phantom fluid testing. So we reverse engineered the competitor's optical technology and pit it head to head against our magnetic induction spectroscopy tech. And the reason we're able to do this is because I have a background. I worked at another startup that dealt with optical spectroscopy sensing here in Houston called Starling Medical. And so I had the technical background to understand the physics behind their sensor, and I reverse engineered it from their patents. Then we took their sensor. We took their sensor and pit it against ours in the same controlled experiment where we used real DialySafe fluid, and we spiked it with cells and other confounders that are present in the patient's effluent sample. And what we found was there is an improvement in accuracy and sensitivity with no trade-off in the specificity, showing that our system reduces the diagnostic errors by 1/3 versus the optical competitor. And this is preliminary data. Once we develop the product even further, there's a lot of flexibility with the hardware and the optimizations. We can improve this even further and do the larger scale study with the LOIs that we have from the hospitals.
All right, William, if you could raise your hand, go to you next, and then we'll go to Eric Pulaski up front.
Two-part question, financial projections based purely on PD or including your growth markets?
In the beginning, it's purely on PD, and we have the growth markets included into the later stages as well.
And so to achieve those growth markets, do you need to invest more in terms of new or improved technology? How much?
Yeah, so we would need to invest. We anticipate to use the same baseline hardware architecture. So we'll use the same coil design, but what's going to change in between the different biofluids is the machine learning models, because the different biofluids, they have different contaminants in them. That's one of the reasons why we're going after the peritoneal dialysis market first, is because the fluid going into the patient is very clean, whereas the effluent fluid is supposed to be clean in a healthy patient. But if there's an infection, it's very easy to detect the deviation between them, which is a benefit of going after them after the PD market first. The other biofluids like blood for hemodialysis, those are more complex fluids. We would need to do more R&D on that to get reliable measurements. The immediate market the immediate vertical we would expand to right after PD would be CSF drains, because they're also clean fluids as well.
Eric.
I've got a question about the feasibility of the technology. So in this particular competitive analysis, what were you measuring exactly? And is there any more data you have to demonstrate that the technology works? And sort of a follow on, you mentioned you're going to be making investments in R&D to do other testing to de-risk the technology. What do you expect those hurdles are going to be? And what exactly is it going to take to demonstrate enough feasibility to prove that this works?
Yeah, so we conducted 3 phases of testing. So this was our 3rd phase with the cell testing. We also conducted saline testing, where we spiked the dialysate with different ionic concentrations to characterize the physics of the sensor. So seeing the precision of the sensor and the noise limitations of the sensor. The next phase of testing that we did was dextrose confounder testing, because patients on PD, they get different prescriptions of dextrose in their dialysate fluid. So we wanted to show that the sensor would not be impacted by these differences in the dextrose, which is shown by our very high selectivity ratio for the ionic changes versus the dextrose changes. What was the other part?
What are the obstacles you foresee in demonstrating feasibility and de-risking the technology, and what
Yeah.
are the steps?
So the question is the obstacles you see in de-risking the technology.
Yeah, so the next phase would be testing it with the effluent samples that's collected by the patients. That's also another benefit of going after the PD market, because the patients, they're already discarding the fluid, they're getting rid of it. So we don't need to go through the more complex, like longer IRB process as for hemodialysis, for example, where we need to collect blood sample. We can just collect the samples from the patients through our partnerships with the hospital, and run the tests using those fluid samples. Another point that we want to de-risk as well is for temperature changes. So we want to make sure that the sensor is not influenced by environmental changes, and also for noise that's in the patient's home environment. So another benefit that we did with our testing, we conducted it in the home environment to simulate the noise and the electronics that the patients would normally have in their home setting. And this is where these results were taken from.
Okay, we're going to come up here to Lamar. Raise your hand, Lamar.
There's a lot of competitors in this space, many who have attempted it, failed, etc. Tell us why, talk to us about the competitive landscape.
Yeah.
So our main competitor is CloudCath, and they're the only company that is FDA approved within this scape. The only issue is that they are invasive. So the way dialysis works is you have
not invasive. They touch the fluid, but they're not invasive. So the way the optical sensor works is they have their own proprietary tubing that they need to connect in between the tubes that the patients are already connecting. So it adds 2 additional contact points, so 2 additional contamination points. Whereas our system clips directly to the outside of the tubing. There's no added connection points for the patient, and we use 0 disposables, which especially for dialysis patients, this is a huge deal for them, which we found through our interviews with these patients, because they're already dealing with so many disposables. They're dealing with the dialysis fluid, they're dealing with the PD tubing. They don't want additional tubing, and the clinics don't want additional inventory management that they need to deal with. So by simplifying the sensor to be fully reusable, that's one of our main differentiators. As well as for our sensor, the only other non-contact technology that we have is the Criba system from Spain. They use ultrasound technology to quantify the cells by placing the entire DialySafe bag onto their sensor. Whereas for our sensor, because we're clipping onto the tube, we can use it for smaller fluid volumes, which is especially useful for pediatric patients.
I know.
From a customer journey, can you walk us through a little bit, like company like DaVita and others they're very specialized. Have you tried to talk to them, tried to bring them on board early on, because that will de-risk the investment versus the technology customer pool? Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah, so we have contacted them and we have their contact information. We're still trying to schedule time to speak with them, because we want to be on their radar so that the competitors, they can't do an exclusive deal. Like they would have us on their radar. They'd wait for our data before going with another competitor, for example. What was the other part? What was the other part of the question? Yeah. So for the customer journey, we're starting with private practice clinics first, which do faster sales cycles, so we can get the data initially.
And with that, let's give it up for DialySafe from Rice University. And if Brace from Michigan State could please make their way down to the stage.
working out and trying to post a lot.
Yeah, so as you're getting set up, the clock start at 20, at 10 minutes. That'll be at the end of your presentation. And then we'll roll right into Q&A.
Okay.
I'll direct the questions on the, like, who to go with. Go ahead, get yourself you sorted.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll direct the questions as far as like who's going. Devron and Ruby will be on this side. So if you hear those names, look this way.
That's on the other side.
Yeah, and Diane and Amit are on this side.
Yeah.
So I'll do my best to ask people to raise their hands. And then when you see the clock start like to 0, I need to like cut it off. So just know if you're going, like, think about how you can wind down your answer. So that way, like, it's as crisp as it could be.
Yes.
To do so. Most important thing, have fun.
Yeah. Yes.
And you've got to get mic'd up as well. I just and then like I'll put it on top. So if you find yourself like think about how to wind down. Yeah. And then I'm gonna just direct traffic. People ask the question for waste. That way, yeah, I'll moderate that.
Yeah.
All right, if we could get back to our seats. All right. You know, as everyone's getting back to our seats, it's always fun to see past RBPC contestants and also RBPC winners. So I see over here, direct from Switzerland, Alex Schuler, founder of Adhesis, is with us today, who successfully navigated an exit by recruiting to Goose and Ashok Rao to become the chair and selling to Grunenthal, I believe in 2018 or 19, is that right? Or 2017. So give it up for Adhesis. And with that, please welcome Brace from Michigan State University.
Hello everyone, I'm Madhav Agarwal.
I'm Tanvi Gadam Sethi.
I'm Parker Lambers. And we're the founders of Brace, revolutionizing performance, safety, and recovery standards with better material tech innovation.
Think about the materials in the gear that you rely on. It could be a helmet, a strap, or even a brace. Now, when the materials and demand is placed on them and they can't keep up, these equipment start to fail. And when they fail, people get hurt and sometimes even lose their lives. And better materials do exist, but they're in labs. They're single use, extremely expensive and outdated, and they can't scale up. The gap between what's possible and what's accessible is exactly what we're solving at Brace.
And this isn't a niche problem. It seeps into industries such as athletics, tactical, medical, and outdoor, and it costs our global infrastructure system $19 billion per year. And the root cause in all of this is outdated materials. And industry leaders are paying attention. There's been a huge corporate push over the last 5 years for next generation multifunctional materials, materials that need to be stronger yet lighter across industries and that need to scale up.
And that's why we built Brace, creating the next generation of multifunctional materials with patented polymer composite innovation. At Brace, we have pioneered a technology to create the world's first ever yarn-level mechanically programmable composites. What this means is we can take any polymer yarn, say polyester, for its versatility, lightweightness, and accessibility, extrude it with our manufacturing process at a yarn level, which is 100 times closer than what the naked human eye can see, and introduce an entirely new polymer with its specific benefits. In this example, aramid fibers for fire resistance and tactile strength. Together, we can make complementary benefits, getting rid of their individual constraints within material science to finally create advanced benefits from commoditized polymers. This will yield companies to bring innovations to market faster, for cheaper, but with a better performance, making advanced material benefits finally accessible to all. Behind our one scalable material platform are two core technologies. First, lattice drip technology, which is the extrusion process on a yarn level, creating these micro ridges for intrinsic stability, as you can see up there. This leads to integration of other synthetic fibers for their benefits. And we are not limited to just two polymers, and we're the only ones in the world that are able to introduce more than one polymer on the same yarn level. Second is composite architecture. Our proprietary knitting and weaving methods, letting us to customize specs up to 3 decimals of accuracy. Specs like weather resistance, tensile strength, fire resistance, and elasticity quotient. We are proud to say that these two technologies were not just listed in the National Inventors Hall of Fame just last month, but also became the fastest ever granted utility patent in the history of material science. This yields us to create indefinitely scalable applications of the material. We are not just limited to fabrics, not just limited to cords, but can be implemented into any polymer technology that still uses staple or filament yarns. We can make abrasion-resistant cords stronger, spacesuits lighter but still fire-resistant, the upper soles of shoes lighter, flexible, and not commoditized, but may bring them market quicker, and even bulletproof vests for significantly less weight, but still remaining fire-resistant and bulletproof. As Tanvi said, we are not alone in this industry, though. We are competing directly against legacy brands like Kevlar within the tactical space, Gore-Tex within environmental textile and specialty fibers. But we are as high in tensile strength, as weather-resistant as Gore-Tex, but for a fraction of the price. We are removing their individual constraints and finally making them not just linear, but multifaceted across different industries, beating them at a substantial performance versus cost-benefit ratio, unlocking a $28 billion market opportunity across industries. This led to us bringing this innovation to market through a GDM strategy in 3 phases. Phase 1 last year was to bring our technology to the market as fast as we possibly can. We chose the market of athletics, moving extremely fast and extremely lean, creating the world's first shoelaces that never come untied due to activity, weather, or fray, for better lateral support and ankle stability. Today, won in every single major league across the country. We're proud to say we were on Shark Tank just last month, scored a double shark deal, and today are available through nationwide retailers, maintaining 96% net margins across sales channels. Today, we are validated by the International Physician Society and the WTA Sports Science, and this validation and traction led us to phase 2, because the past was just the tip of the iceberg. Today, we are scaling globally through OEM integrations, considered as textiles, fabrics, cords, and fasteners within the athletic, outdoor, and tactical space. We are replicating the Intel Inside model for high advanced fabrics, beating industry standard margins all the way up to 92% net. We already have 12 signed sales pipeline deals across multiple industries globally that help us scale, create a recurring business model, and create validation for us, which leads us to our moat. This makes Brace defensible, global, and desirable based on IP, validation, and execution. First, our independent IP. Tanvi and I are the only inventors on the patent, the only stakeholders. It is not a tech transfer from a university. And we have one granted US utility patent with coverage in 7 global markets, including China and Vietnam, with 4 continuation patents already filed across multiple sectors that we are aggressively increasing as we speak. We also retain trade secrets on the extremely complex manufacturing processes and scope of manufacturing globally. Second is our scalable supply chain, a 3-point vertically integrated supply chain model that uses global and local infrastructure to scale as we grow. We can have a partner as big as the Department of Defense or Nike partner with us next month, and our current manufacturing contractors can grow as we grow without any notches in the model. Third is our early market recognition. Within just 15 months, we're already partnering with global leading brands that are recognizable, building that validation in the long term, making Brace the OEM brand, which would lead us to our third phase of the strategy, which is in late 2028, we will be completely licensing the IP for applications beyond our industry expertise. These are industries like medical, aerospace, and tactical, creating an asset-light, liability-free, recurring revenue model where we license entirely with no upfront costs. And we already have 3 signed LOIs with industrial giants like 3M and Johnson & Johnson for not just licensing for their medical applications, but also for seed investment in our seed round later next year. While we move at lightning speed, this is the team that makes it happen. Tanvi and I are graduating seniors at Michigan State. We are graduating in 3 weeks. We'll be at the business full time. We're very excited. We're also joined by Parker Lambers, our CFO, with experience at Fortune 100 companies, building their finance and supply chain strategy. We will be expanding our team with the OEM sales force, with business dev personnel as we focus on the technological strategy, and PhD in material science we have already identified and will be hiring in early summer. Together, we've not just built the youngest company in Texas history, but also were featured in Entrepreneur Magazine and a very popular TV show just last month. And we're not doing this alone. We have world-leading experts who have joined us for our IP expansion, including the IP behind WL Gore and Nike, now spearheading our fabric development program. We have the president of NFL Physician Society, leading the world with 300 publications in preventative care on our board, and marketeers behind Liquid Death, helping us towards OEM sales. These have brought enterprises to 10-figure awesome exits across sectors.
We have already generated profitable revenue. Last year, in our first year of business, we generated $560,000 of sales. This year, thanks to our strong margins, we're projecting $2.7 million in sales and $800,000 in EBITDA. This will come from a mixture of OEM partnerships and D2C sales. We have signed 3 OEM deals so far and would love to discuss more during the Q&A. The market pull is strong. With over 12 signed MOUs across a variety of industries, we are unlocking a $27 million sales pipeline by 2029. This industry demand and growth has been matched by investor enthusiasm in our oversubscribed $1 million pre-seed round. Some of our investors include the Haslam Sports Group, owners of the Milwaukee Bucks and Cleveland Browns, as well as senior executives at companies like Nike and Adidas, as well as 2 of the largest hospital networks in the country. So far, we've raised $1.6 million, but we're keeping the round open for strategic investors here at Rice. We will use these funds towards a variety of things. First, we will hire an OEM sales team, and we will begin to onshore manufacturing due to recent interest from the Department of Defense and other federal industries. Additionally, we will expand our IP portfolio. These funds give us an 18-month runway, and we're planning a seed round late in 2027. We see an acquisition as the most likely outcome for our business, possibly by one of our partners or customers. Some similar exits in the industry include the gold standard of tactical material Kevlar being acquired by Arcland for $1.8 billion, just announced last week. These companies only offer a single product or are useful in only one industry. Imagine what Brace can do. We are utilizing our core material platform across a variety of industries.
This is material tech intelligence. Thank you.
All right, judges, let's open it up to questions. Please raise your hands. All right, Diane, Robert.
So the revenue, is that licensing revenue you have this year? And also, what is a signed pipeline agreement? Is that a purchase order? What is that?
Yes, so for last year and this year, most of our revenue has been B2B OEM, where we are not licensing the patent, but providing finished goods in the form of fabrics, upper soles, and shoelaces to Africa's largest running brand. And when we talk of signed pipelines across industries, then they are split. We are looking for our first licensing revenue. This is from industry leaders like Stanley Black & Decker, creating better fabrics for their tools, etc. But historically, all our revenue has been D2C sales, that is selling our shoelaces through our online channels exclusively, and B2B finished goods OEM across sectors.
All right, Greg Price up front.
He asked my first part of my question, which is the number of customers. So you said it was mostly business related, OEM things. Tell me a little bit about what type of customers do you think you're going to get over the next 12 to 18 months? You know, you kind of went into it, but let's dive a little deeper on that.
Yes, so historically, we have had customers ranging from athletic footwear and apparel brands to workwear, occupational gear brands that are looking to, that were current vendors with, say, Kevlar. They were looking for a lighter material. They were not willing to budge on fire resistance, but wanted to bring product to market faster. So OEM in athletics and tactical and occupational that needs to bring product to market faster with better specs at a lower price. So accessibility. In the next 12 to 18 months, we are looking to go bigger. These are tactile manufacturers and fabric manufacturers entirely, who then sell to commercial merchandise partners. So we are currently engaging with partners all the way from the world's largest footwear company making their merchandise to the United States Department of Defense's largest merchandise fabric vendor to be assimilated within their supply chain without any problems. Thank you. Great question, sir.
So you said onshoring, which means you're currently offshore. What's your plan if a competitive product pops up at another factory in the country where you're currently offshore? How do you figure out that it's actually your technology? And if it is, what's your plan for stopping?
Yes, so currently we do have offshore manufacturing in China, Vietnam, and Korea. We are IP protected in all those three markets. Currently within the United States, there has been no other research, other composite, or any other brand that has been able to go into multi-polymer yarn composites beyond just us. A big part of this raise will be dispersed towards onshoring manufacturing because we have a lot of interest from the Department of Defense and some medical companies in the United States that need us to manufacture in home ground. So for those, we have a larger budget on IP enforcement. We are consistently looking at competitor products. Current competitors, we are also looking to partner with them. How can we bring their products market to faster, beginning with our yarn composite? We see other fabric development or fiber development manufacturing systems as future partners. If not, we precede them on a yarn level. So these could in future use our yarn, but currently in the country, nobody else has the capacity to do what we're able to do. And we are aggressively enforcing our IP. I'm using a larger budget of the raise. Thank you.
Aparna.
Yes, on the specs, are there certifications that you have to meet, and is it different from one customer to the other?
Yeah, so we do standard certifications. These are like ISO, NFPA, and also ASTM standards. When we're partnering specifically with a brand or company, if they have any specs or certain certifications, that testing is done specifically also on their end. So we provide them with the basic metrics and spec sheets that we have, but a lot of that testing and R&D is also taken by our partners as well.
We do a lot of custom NFPA and ATSM standard testing as well.
Hey, Gary.
Excuse me. What is your current ownership and what is your cap on this investment?
Yes, so current ownership of the company is extremely lean. Tanvi and I are the only stakeholders alongside our advisory board, which is connected larger to milestone-based vesting. They have to progress the business to be able to get their milestones. We have currently raised $1.6 million on the same investment vehicle. It is at a $17.5 million pre-money with no discount. It's a standard YC safe. And we have investors. If all the safes go to convert, we would still dilute less than 12.5%. In total, we will still have, as founders, 85% of the business. We do not have any liabilities or any debt currently. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, let's go to William.
You're in Houston. Energy and aerospace are our big areas. Could you talk about those applications? How does your product compete, say, for Nomex for fire protection gear and things like that?
Great question. So in terms of tactical readiness in aerospace, we have already done industry standard testing in tensile strength, fire resistance, exposure to flash fire and flash spark, reactivity to UV radiation or vacuum. We currently meet all those industry standard testing results. There is no disintegration, degradation, or any visual or physical effect on the micro ridges that we create on the yarn. We have met those specs, but we are also leaning on our industrial partners to let us know what additional testing to be done. The baseline one for tactical readiness, we are as fire resistant as Kevlar. We are 78% lighter than Kevlar because the base is mostly polyester. We are doubling the strength of polyester at half the elasticity strain. So the stretch is not as much, strength is double. That is the standard of testing that we've done so far, but we're looking to expand on it. Thank you.
My question would be on the IP. Can you talk a little bit about the extrusion process? That's a pretty standard, widely used. How do you plan to protect that since you don't control the manufacturing equipment? It's a trade secret or is truly patent, giving the offshore manufacturing?
Yes, so the current IP portfolio looks something like this. The first granted utility patent not only includes the micro ridges and the extrusion result of the extrusion process that creates these micro ridges for foreign synthetic fibers to also integrate on the same yarn level. It also includes the entire possible proportion of two polymers. All synthetic fibers are included within our large IP portfolio. There's nobody else in the world that can combine polyester with any other synthetic on the same yarn level. So that is what is also covered. On the extension patents, which are 4 currently pending, we include spinneret designs, which is the custom spinneret leading to the extrusion result, more applications beyond cords, cables, and fabrics, which is our current focus, and also into other synthetics beyond polyester aramids. We are going into nylon, Dyneema, Nomex as a whole. The goal is to cover as many synthetic fibers with as many custom extrusions as possible, and we're working rather aggressively towards expanding our IP, not just in the United States, but globally.
And the manufacturing process itself is under a trade secret, so it's only the end result of it that's in our patent.
All right, we're going to come up to the right over here, Gerald.
How much cash do you have on hand and what's your burn rate?
Yes, so currently we have $1.7 million in the bank. We are extremely cash flow positive. What we are looking at is when we onshore manufacturing, there would be CapEx dispersed towards bringing that manufacturing in for federal applications. We look for this capital to run us 18 months. We are looking to also expand our raise to 2.5, hence we're here at RBPC. So with the raise lasting us, we are also envisioning a seed round later in the next year. The goal is for this cash to go as long as it possibly can. We're extremely frugal with the money, to be honest, but we're looking to expand on IP, bringing experts in to lead different business units, and also enforcing our IP is a big focus. We have $1.7 million in the bank right now. Thank you.
Any other questions?
1 minute left.
Yeah, all right, William.
Very quickly, you went through several accelerators. They usually take equity. I didn't hear that in your cap table. Have you given up equity to the accelerators? How much?
Yes, so while we have been through Techstars, a generator, plug and play tech center, we are an anomaly where we have not given any equity to these accelerators. We still get all their access, including Techstars and generators, mentorship, and other founders networks. But none of the accelerators are a line item on our cap table. We've been extremely lean and focused on non-dilutive capital and a frugal way of running the business without letting go of the ownership, though we are looking for strategic partners.
All right, with that, let's wrap up here. Please give it up for Brace and calling down Imagine Devices. Nice job. You guys should have to do a class on how to be an accelerator, so not give up.
I know, right? It's rare.
How did you do that?
Tagging them.
What's that?
We said it will be the biggest thing you'll ever see, and so be part of it.
Literally.
It's like good or bad? Like, they have some participation.
But they don't have any milestones in there around that. So while they should take us, we don't ever do straight up. Capital factor will not be up.
Yeah. Well, you got all the best.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, pretty good. How are you?
I'm JR.
Yes.
Okay, great. Really good. Always protect to the back of the room. Always like that. Hey, we're gonna get you guys mic'd up here. Okay. Get mic'd up. As you're getting ready, that clock over there is gonna start. You got 10 minutes to do that. So I'm gonna think of the page, you want to yes, you get like down, I'll feel the questions and I'll try to like say left or right. Answer to raise their hands. Like when that gets down to 0, we cut from there.
We're right at 10 minutes plus and minus 15 seconds. So
You guys, I'll give you guys like to finish up. Okay. Do so, but just know that on the question, and I'll
you manage it. Yeah. Thank you.
Making sure all the laptops.
Does it go to this?
Yeah, just fine.
Give me a second. Do you guys have clickers?
We only have one for the PC in here.
Oh, that's okay.
Is why is yours, is that a barrier?
No, that's fine. Sometimes hit or miss. So if it acts up, I just use it.
Gotcha.
I can. Let's put them here. I think we can. Yeah, let's put down. Good. Yes. Breakout. I just want to make sure it's not as stretched like this, you know. Does this just record for me? And
All right, everyone. Please get back to your seat. So after this pitch, we'll have a 30-minute break. We'll ask everyone to be back here for 2:30. Is that right, Brad? 2:30?
Yes.
For 2:30. before we get to our next pitch, if you are curious around part of Mercury Fund's Fund 6 thesis, a big part of it is on agentic commerce. They believe there's a structural shift going on across commerce, across payments. And on Tuesday at the Ion at 3:30, Blair Guru, who's over here, will be here to talk about that. If that's an area of interest for you, if you're a founder, want to learn more, plug into that network, come join us next Tuesday at the Ion at 3:30. And with that, let's welcome Imagine Devices from the University of Texas at Austin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Iman Salafian, co-founder and CEO of Imagine Devices. Let's do it again. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Iman Salafian, co-founder and CEO of Imagine Devices.
My name is Ishan Sheth, and I lead the clinical studies and partnerships.
And at Imagine Devices, we are building the next generation solution for pediatric and neonatal vital sign monitoring. Every year, over 15 million infants are born premature globally and over 400,000 just in the US alone. Prematurity is the #1 cause of mortality in neonates, and it's been increasing consistently in the past decade. But what does it mean to be a premature infant for the patients themselves, for the parents, and also the clinical team? To answer that question, I'd like to invite you to the neonatal intensive care unit just for 1 minute to meet Ward. Ward is a prematurely born infant, 3.5 months early, under 1.5 pounds. This is the very first time his mother, Lindsay, is holding him to provide a standard of care, a skin-to-skin care. With more than 10 wires, tubes, and sensors attached to this infant, this is almost impossible. Sometimes we need 2 or 3 nurses carry the infant and wires and tubes to make sure they can always get vital signs continuously without interruption, and they can give the baby respiratory support through those big masks and tubes. But this is all we see on the surface, which is very disturbing, but is causing a lot of severe problems for the infants themselves. Patients receive respiratory support non-invasively through CPAP or high-flow nasal cannula. The goal is to provide optimum oxygenation and maintain airway pressure inside their lungs. With air leaking around these prongs and also the CPAP mask, that pressure fluctuates and it's very severely dangerous for the patients. The clinicians were asking if there is any way for us to measure that air pressure internally so we know that the pressure that was supposed to go there is actually reached there. Skin-mounted sensors create a skin breakdown, irritations, and infections, and they may not stick very well due to body liquids. We saw earlier that the nursing have a very hard time managing the patient, and nursing shortages at all-time high right now, and we saw parents cannot provide that skin-to-skin care effectively.
The good news is that almost all NICU patients receive a feeding tube that is administered either through the nose or through the mouth and serves one purpose: to feed the patients in their stomach. Begging the question, can this feeding tube be smarter? Our technology, Trinity Tube, is a multi-function feeding tube with vital sign and respiratory monitoring capabilities. Not only does Trinity Tube feed the patients in their stomachs just as a traditional nasogastric tube would, but it also provides the critical internal airway pressure monitoring that physicians need and no one has ever done before. Along with that, it also provides internal vital sign monitoring through temperature, heart rate, and ECG. Trinity Tube is a disposable Class II medical device and is seamlessly compatible with the current NICU bedside monitoring technology. Today, patients look like this with a bulky CPAP mask, a feeding tube, and wires and adhesives stuck all over their body. Tomorrow, with Trinity Tube, we'll be able to facilitate the transition from CPAP to nasal cannula faster, allowing physicians to measure the internal airway pressure and vital signs while also leaving the patient's skin open for them to lay on their parent's chest and receive effective skin-to-skin care. Our IP is protected with our patent nationalized in 5 jurisdictions, and our technology is backed by over 300 clinicians that we have interacted with. We've built fully functional MVPs and prototypes that we have tested preclinically through animal and benchtop testing, as well as through 2 successful IRB-approved human clinical studies. We've met with the FDA 2 times through pre-sub meetings where we have validated that Trinity Tube is a Class 2 510(k) pathway medical device requiring no clinical trials to achieve market authorization through an iterative submission process. We are so honored to have received over 50 awards over the past 2 years, totaling in more than $700,000 in non-dilutive funding from major institutions. Here at Imagine Devices, we built a strong network of hospital partners, development partners, and we are directly funded through the FDA Pediatric Device Consortia, and we're now a portfolio company of all 5 of them. I'm excited to announce that earlier this year, we secured investment and a strategic go-to-market partnership with Neotech Products. Neotech is a global leader in pediatric and neonatal device manufacturing with sales and distributions in over 125 countries. We believe that this partnership will bring Trinity Tube to the bedside faster and stronger through Neotech's market penetration in the United States and the rest of the world.
And guess what is the biggest challenge of every startup? Sales. And we got this covered with this partnership. And even what's more exciting is Neotech is one of the major manufacturers of this nasal prong that you saw already. They sell over 400,000 of these. They have over 30% market share, and the 2 companies work together. And we recognize that patients receiving air through this and then get that air pressure measured through our device is the best combination for the patient. Just imagine that we get even close to that care in the upcoming years. We have a fully dedicated and experienced management team with decades of expertise in medtech industry. I have spent the last 15 years building successful medical devices, brought products to market. I'm a Texas Business Hall of Fame awardee. My clinical team, Dr. Alan Groves, Angie, and Adam, have over 30 years of bedside and clinical experience. They bring so much expertise and knowledge, as well as an extensive network of hospital partners that work with us directly. Ishan works with this team directly. He's now in charge of our clinical study in Austin and San Diego. My technical team has over 25 years of building and bringing products to market, and we have regulatory and quality in-house. We're working directly with other neonatologists across the US and also Europe. Our business and go-to-market strategy has been co-developed and validated by the best minds out there and the most experienced medtech people in our industry. Trinity Tube will be the only product that brings all these functionalities at a competitive price point of $300. We are replacing everything in that orange box, and we still want to be cheaper on the upfront cost of replacement. For example, on a monthly basis, 2 Trinity Tubes and 2 nasal prongs will be almost half of what the hospital is paying right now for everything else on the patient. Not even including any skin damage could be $500 per case. If that leads to bloodstream infection, that will be $70,000 cost of preventable interventions. With over 380,000 admissions per year, we have estimated that the demand for this product could exceed 1.1 million tubes per year. That leads into US market size of $350 million. And we still believe that this is the beachhead because we already have interest from PICU, but our device is fully compatible with ICUs. In close collaboration with Neotech Products and their sales team and their capacity, we have estimated that the sales of the Trinity Tube will exceed $20 million within 5 years and 15% market share by the end of the 7th year. We have identified over 20 high potential exit opportunities. We got engaged with a few. We have a strong interest, and of course, Neotech wants to be one of those. And we've seen successful exits in this space with multiples of 5 to 10 and exits of $30 to $200 million just in the earliest stage of startups. In the next 2 years, we have 2 major focus. We're going to transition from our final prototype to a commercially grade product, and we build enough of those to do all the FDA testing, which we know already, and get the product into the market in mid-2028. And currently, we are raising the funding for the green area where we do that transition. So we have a strong progress with that round. So already Neotech Ventures, Mississippi Angel Fund, we are more than halfway through that with some physician angels and also FDA grants. So, and more importantly, we are now, as of yesterday, we have a second partner investing. That's the company that manufactures and sells this monitoring unit that is connected to our pressure port to show that internal pressure. UT Austin is actually in the final stages of the signature process for the UT Seed Fund, and the application is in the president's office. Just earlier this week, we joined MedTech Innovator, the world's largest community of MedTech leaders, meaning that we had a validated market, technology, regulatory pathway, and business strategy to be able to join that. This is Ward again. He's now 13 years old, the baby that you saw earlier. He and his family and two dozen other families have been a great supporter of this. I was a premature infant myself, so this means a lot to me personally. At Imagine Devices, we are revolutionizing the standard of care for the most delicate patients, so we won't see patients like Ward anymore. Thank you.
Amit, let's start right up front.
Just for reference, this is the size of a premature infant before and after they get our tube, they're going to be completely free of that.
All right, up in the middle.
Yeah, Irene Kostrakis. How are you going to keep your partner Neotech from taking your technology? How is it that you keep them from taking it and just incorporating it into their lanyard or whatever the strap is?
I answered this in two different ways. Neotech is well respected in our community for taking physician ideas to market. That RAM cannula was actually a physician's idea. They work with all the FDA-funded Pediatric Device Consortium as a partner to bring products to market and develop products. So that's in terms of reliability and the trust that we have in their organization. They are technically a family business that grew into this giant company. The second is our IP. Our company is licensing the IP from UT Austin. We are the co-founders are the co-inventors, and UT Austin have been a great supporter of that. So we're going to build more and more IP on top of this that belongs to Imagine Devices, and that protects us on the IP side.
All right, Kent.
Great job. One quick question, another one. How many of your team members are full-time? And then the second question is, you showed the monitor. Talk a little bit about the dashboard software platform component and how is that going to integrate to the existing systems that are already in place?
Of course. So I've been full-time since last year with the company. Dr. Alan Groves, he reduced his clinical time to spend more time with us. As we transition into our development, we're going to have some of our team transitioning from bedside clinical more on the full-time. At the end of the day, we want our clinical team to have footprint in the hospital. Our full-time team will develop as we start our transition to the final grade of product. And in terms of the product itself, like Ishan earlier said, we did an extensive market validation to see what exactly the decision makers want out there. The main thing the decision maker, the adopter said, please don't bring me a new monitor with this. We don't have the budget, neither the space to put your monitor on the bedside. So all of these connectors are standard connectors. They go to the existing bedside monitor, and it's compatible either with NICU monitors and PICU, ICU.
Eric.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how are you monitoring the air pressure through the esophagus? Really interesting. And how did you come up with that idea? I'm kind of curious how you stumbled on this solution to the problem.
Well, that's interesting. So that's actually one of the major part of our IP is like how we are actually not putting a transducer onto the tube and still being able to measure pressure. What we do is remote sensing. That's kind of the major part of our IP. I know this is getting live stream, right? So, yes. So we minimize the cost and the risk of having a powered electronic inside the patient by measuring the pressure actually externally. So happy to expand on the details.
How did you come up with the idea? Where would you?
Well, I'm a mechanical engineer by training, and that was something that we kind of looked at and see like what is the way that we could potentially build something that is not reliable and sensor inside the body, because we went that path. So it was through testing multiple different ideas until all of a sudden the light bulb turns on.
Help us understand your strategy to exit. How far do y'all want to take this and when before you exit?
Of course. So I'm gonna take it a little bit graphical, as easy as I can explain. I don't know. So yeah. So what we're gonna accomplish is we see our partners, our path to market with our initial sales. Because like I said, building a sales team for a startup is the hardest thing to do. It's even harder than FDA clearance. So I'm sure everybody agree with that. So we have spent about 5 months getting together with this company to come up with a path that is the best for us and them. So what's going to happen is a contract manufacturer sends the product to our partner. Our partner sells it through the existing channels to the hospital. My team and I will work directly with the hospital, the clinician, demo the product. Let's do a clinical study together. Let's generate data together. We take that data and we go on. We're going to build the sales up and up and up until either somebody else is going to acquire us and the technology from Neotech, or Neotech would do it themselves. So we don't have exclusivity with Neotech on that. So we keep that door open for everybody else to join. So this is collaborative. And also with that second partner, DRW Medical, we can do the same thing with that. Well, right now, once we are in market, the clock starts right there. I would anticipate maybe 3 years. It depends. We generate data, we reach out to companies, we come back and see how that progresses. So, but that shortens the whole trip a couple of years faster.
We're going to go up right.
In your slide that showed all the competitors, you put yourself on the extreme left. There was Philips immediately next to you that had a price point about half of you, but you didn't have any circle around it. And then you addressed the other fellows that were further right. So I'm a little bit confused. You have identified somebody that's half your price, but why are they on that slide? And explain.
Well, great question. Philips only does temperature monitoring and feeding. They don't cover what we do with pressure monitoring, which is the major challenge. I directly spoke with the people that use Philips in a sense, and they said, this doesn't create enough value for me to switch from a skin-mounted and the conventional feeding to Philips. And now we're looking for a better solution that addresses more problems. When Ishan said we are making the transition from CPAP to high flow nasal cannula faster, that transition would be a huge cost cut for the hospital. So you see that our price is going to be $300, and we have a second version of that. If we have regulatory people in the room, I can go over that too. The second version that is simpler, and that product goes in first. So the value that we are adding to the bedside is significant enough to justify that price point. And we did the cost analysis on that.
All right, we're going to go right up the middle.
Yes, this is a question about your regulatory approval pathway. Your primary predicate, Philips Innocence, was discontinued. And so just wondering if you've had any commentary from the FDA about looking at equivalents and how they will accept something that's been discontinued when that was your primary predicate.
That's actually excellent. So I build on top of all I already said. First of all, value didn't justify the hospital to go and adopt it. And we also realized that this product was only compatible with Philips bedside monitor, not the insulet that the baby's resting on. So our connector is actually the connector that goes to the isolate, that basically manages the temperature from inside the body with the bed temperature. They were missing that. They were going to their own bedside monitor and it was no value. So I actually talked to the people that use that product directly. They still want the core body temperature, but that integration didn't work for them.
All right, we go last question up here up on the right, Alex.
You're measuring a number of critical vitals, I presume. How close do you have to be to the current gold standard, and how far have you already shown that you can reach that reliably?
Great question. I want to be careful how I'm saying that, not breaking any FDA rules because we're still in development. We compare everything side by side. In our current studies, we still have the chest leads on the patient's skin, and we also have our MVPs inside. So we measure the vitals comparatively, and we are talking to cardiologists for ECG, and we realize that the ECG is primarily for a 3-electrode ECG. That would be only the heart rate, mostly the heart rate that are interested. The temperature, we're going from a skin to core body, which is even better for the clinicians, because once the sensor falls off on the bed, the temperature goes anywhere. So, and the internal pressure, we measure that, and that's one of the studies that they're doing right now, the effect of how deep inside the nasopharyngeal and esophageal space we can measure that to be the most effective.
We're going to have to cut it right there. Please give it up for Imagine Devices. We're going to take a break. Please join us back here at 2:30. 2:30. Thank you.
Good job.
All right. We get everyone back to their seats. All right, enough.
Our flight yesterday morning, the lady said,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back, everyone. Hey, so for so many years, how many people have been here for more than 5 years of a RBPC? And you probably remember every Thursday the event would kick off with no other than Brad Richards. So today, I've asked Brad, come over before we get started back to the finals. Kick it over to Brad to say a few words.
All right. Thank you, JR. I wanted to talk about the other Brad, Brad Burke. Many of you that may not, I hope most of you know that this is Brad Burke's last year with the Rice Alliance and with the RBPC. He is retiring. Oh, he's graduating. And the thing is, Brad doesn't like to make things about himself, but what Brad does, so he would want to recognize his team and all those people. But what he knows how to do is he knows how to build a team. He knows how to motivate a team. He knows how to retain a team. And even more important, he knows how to choose a good successor to succeed him on the team. But anyway, he's done a great job. He's done all that without having a huge ego, a person of great integrity. So we all appreciate him. And I will tell you, you look around this whole room and you'll see that he has built an enormous ecosystem of entrepreneurs, investors, and sundry others. So I want us, if we could, just to take a moment. I know he doesn't want to be the center of attention. Make him the center of attention. If you all could stand up and give a hand to Brad Burke.
And with that thunderous round of applause, please welcome Routura from the University of Notre Dame and the University of Texas at Austin.
Awesome. All right, good afternoon. We are Routura. My name is Tom. This is my co-founder, Luke.
and we are bringing AI and automation into government services. And we're doing so through our scheduling, routing, and oversight tool built into one unified workflow for city inspection agencies. Actually, today we're working with New York City's Department of Buildings and their Department of Transportation for inspection routing. So to paint the picture, let's start off by meeting Joe. Joe is a chief inspector whose department visits thousands of work sites around the city every single day. But each day, Joe's agency wastes over 100 hours manually planning over 4,000 inspections across their massive fleet of inspectors. As you'd imagine, this leads to extremely inefficient routes, completely missed inspections, and wasted funds across the agency. And when I say manual, I'm really not kidding. I mean, these are some of the papers given to us by the DOT in New York to show us just how manual their process is, right? They're quite literally paper pushing. They're taking slips of paper, writing down inspections itineraries, and then handing them to inspectors to go to their routes. It's an archaic process that's practically begging to be digitized.
And COVID simply exacerbated these systemic inefficiencies. And so it creates a perfect why now opportunity space for Routura to launch into. And that's exactly what we're doing with 3,000 of these government agencies across the country and the world, buildings, transit, labor, health. That 3,000, when multiplied by our average annual contract value of roughly $1 million, creates an untapped $3 billion global serviceable market that we're tapping right into.
So we've talked to New York, we've talked to Chicago, Austin, Dallas, Miami, and the problem is abundantly clear. Government inspection management is broken until today. So we are Routura. We serve as the AI decision layer between messy government inspection backlog data and real field execution. So today I'm going to walk you through our product and what we offer. So Joe's going to first start by uploading a backlog of inspections onto our platform. Typically, each agency has a different type of backlog with different criteria, different priorities, but our system is able to normalize any type of backlog into a ranked, digestible list that we can then build routes from. So here's a real example, right? This is the New York City Department of Buildings. They uploaded their backlog into our system. We processed nearly 10,000 inspections and ranked them based on agency-specific parameters. So for the DOB specifically, they had A, B, C, D inspections. They had inspection versus reinspection. All of these have different SLA time windows from which they need to be serviced by. So we use that metric to rank and prioritize these inspections in that order. And this is important because once we click Generate Routes, our system will go down the sorted inspection list and assign each inspection to the most optimal inspector to handle that service request. So we'll look at things like their departments, their skill sets, their district coverage, right? And so we're matching all the highest priority inspections with the best inspectors to address those inspections. And then we fill up their itineraries. And once their itineraries are filled up, we then build optimized routes for each and every inspector. So what that means is we go through every possible route combination and output the fastest sequence of stops. This is our bread and butter. This is what we're known for, at least in the private sector. We'll consider things like traffic, weather conditions, historical weather traffic patterns, and we build optimized routes from that. And this is so key for a lot of these agencies because a lot of these agencies, a lot of the inspectors can conduct 1 or 2 more inspections per day per inspector. And when you have 500 inspectors, you're getting a lot of value from the agency. We also provide mapping, filtering, and oversight capabilities. So just giving the manager sort of a bird's eye view into all of their operations is extremely valuable. And then finally, the manager can then dispatch the routes to the inspectors where they'll receive them on the Routura mobile app, ready to begin the routes. So now as a manager, you can track your inspectors, you can see the status of each inspection. And as a company, we can track really valuable field data that they weren't able to track before. So now we can use that data to retrain our systems, improve our systems, but we can also give that data to the departments so they can showcase it in budget hearings, public hearings, and provide a lot of value for them. So that's a big moat that we have. And then finally, as an inspector, we preload your routes into Google Maps, Apple Maps, and Waze to handle all the navigation. So we don't touch navigation at all. Frankly, we don't want to touch that. But we leave that to the best players in the space. So we're helping these agencies plan more efficiently so that the staff can serve more. But why us, right? Why are these departments so excited to work with us? Well, we've actually positioned ourselves as one of the leaders in the route optimization space. Our journey's been pretty interesting. We started off as a B2C, B2B company. When I was in college, I had the opportunity to work with a nonprofit delivery company. And I saw firsthand, just how bad the routing was. And when I looked online, I saw that a lot of players out there were targeting like the Amazons of the world or the FedExes of the world, but there wasn't something for the small business. And so what we did was quite literally in my dorm room, we launched our Chrome extension and our mobile app And instantly it was a hit, right? We had tens of thousands of drivers from all over the world signing up to use our platform, and they were seeing real tangible results, right? I think in aggregate, we've saved our drivers enough miles to get to the moon and back 8 times. But the best part was, it wasn't just delivery on our platform. We had people finding us organically from field services like power washing, medical couriers, solar installation, realtors, sales agents, but we needed to find our niche. And so after talking to our users extensively, we identified that actually the biggest gap in the market was in government, specifically inspection routing. And so with a few marginal improvements into this existing product line, we ended up landing the largest city in North America, New York City. So I'll let Luke kind of explain our work in the city.
So we leveraged a New York City public-private partnership to sign the Department of Buildings in New York City to an 8-month proof of concept testing phase last year. And at the end of that testing phase, they actually publicized that we'd be able to enable 50 to 60,000 additional inspections per year with our added efficiencies, in addition to repurposing roughly 30,000 hours of labor hours to more efficient tasks. The Department of Transportation saw these stats and they said, hey, we got to get on this too. And so they signed a paid 7-month pilot beginning of this year. At the midpoint in roughly June, they'll give us a go, no-go decision on a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract. Additionally, Department of Environmental Protection and the state Metro Transit Agency both hopped on board as well to observe. And so just between the two of us, we have bootstrapped to become the leading AI partner for the 4 largest inspection agencies, not in the country, in the world. And our business model is simple. We charge $5 per completed inspection each year, and this aligns directly with the city incentives to maximize inspection volume. In fact, for the Department of Buildings, this would materialize to roughly $2.4 million of annual contract value. And interestingly, we're 80% cheaper than what the DOB would have to spend to invest in labor to effectuate similar gains. And so our economies of scale are quite efficient because just between the DOB and the DOT is 4 times the size of the DOB, and yet the implementation cost to go from one to the other was marginal. And so the more revenue we get, the higher our margins, the more operating leverage grows, giving us dry powder, so to speak, to invest in more sales, development, and this unit economics flywheel effect will only enable more efficient scale. And so how do we scale? So Esri is the leading mapping provider of governments around the world. They have roughly 90% of municipality market share. And each year they recruit hundreds of startups who have kind of adjacent technologies to partner with them and create new features that make Esri's mapping licensees more sticky. And in fact, their 30-year manager in New York City said, no startup has shown the progress and traction in the hardest market, in the most bureaucratic market in the country. That's why we want to work with you all. And some of the feature layers we've devised are heat layer analysis, KPI monitoring, and a bunch of other features that we'll be selling the DOB on. And so our moat is really threefold. We spent the last 18 months collecting thousands of inspections, hundreds of inspectors, just so many different variables and parameters and data items from New York City that were deeply embedded in their system and would take any other kind of more back office focused player years and years and years to accumulate that same progress. And that's why they really don't want to do it, right? I mean, the model for GovTech is outsource industry-specific technology to more agile startups. And that's why since 2016, our top 3 competitors have acquired roughly 77 companies with industry-specific technology to work as channel partners. And so we're a highly technical, minority-led team. My co-founder, Tom, former AT&T engineer, stellar full-stack developer. He's built all our products in-house for the 4 largest agencies in the world, alongside our senior software engineer, Ariman, with SpaceX and Tesla experience. I've experienced in New York private equity, Notre Dame student government, navigating bureaucracies. So we have a kind of a complementary skill set to go after this market. In addition, George Shagolev, our head of growth, was the former co-founder of an 8-figure-a-year routing company. He'll be managing the B2B side of things, which Tom briefly mentioned, our B2B tools. He'll be doing that while we focus exclusively on the B2G side of things. Regarding our advisors, we have advisors in sales, government, private equity, tech. And so we have a very kind of diverse and smart team to go after this untapped market. And so we're raising $1 million to close New York City, invest in full-time CTO, full-time general counsel, cybersecurity consultant, close them, validate the Esri model, and then scale nationwide. And so to conclude, huge untapped AI for government market. We're the leading AI partner for the 4 largest agencies in the world. And we love to partner with some of you all to enter new markets, new cities around the globe. Thanks so much, and happy to take your questions.
Judges, please raise your hands. You have questions. Amit.
Yeah, thanks for the great presentation. Well, cities are not all the same. Cities really vary in their interest in tech, whether they have a point of entry in. You just discussed that. I think there's a big difference between New York City and maybe Los Angeles. And then, when you get to smaller second-tier cities, and how would that affect your market if you can't get into those smaller cities?
No, great question. And we've done, thousands of emails of outreach. We've talked to, I think, 20 decision makers from various cities around the country in these last couple months. And again, that's why we're so focused on the Esri partnership, because yes, they have different needs, but all of these cities use Esri for mapping. So that is the common denominator. And so that's why the New York, kind of the initial New York partnership with Esri is exciting, because we're outlining 15, 20, 25 features that just add on to cities' existing, Esri mapping infrastructure. And so when we go to them, it's no longer, okay, what's your operation like? How many inspectors? Who's the decision maker? Esri streamlines all that. We go in as a layer on top of a infrastructure they already have. So it standardizes the distribution model and allows us to scale more efficiently, as opposed to just doing kind of like cold outreach to every city, which is very arduous and not an effective approach to a standardized distribution model.
Let's go on the left to Jesh.
Hi, great presentation. One quick question. I saw the emphasis on minority-led as a company. Does that play a role in the government contracts that you've gotten? And now with the current administration has taken all of those advantages out of play, how does that affect your future business plan?
So a very interesting question. So actually in New York, they have a minority-led qualification that will give us RFP advantage. So meaning the ceiling for us for an RFP is a lot higher, meaning that we can charge more and not be subject to a kind of a public offering. So that's a very unique advantage, and especially with the new mayor Zoran Mamdani, who's very kind of focused on those sorts of programs. We think we can solidify New York, and then all the top cities, LA, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, they all have kind of similar programs that reward kind of minority-led companies and give us significant RFP advantages, where we're not going to have to compete and issue a public offering. We can charge, I think New York is like 1.5 million, and that's the ceiling we can go up to, and won't have to bid against other outside competitors. So huge kind of procurement advantage that will really streamline the process and remove a lot of friction.
So we're going to come to the right over here to Robert.
No offense to all the lawyers here, but why are you using your initial raise to hire a lawyer full-time? Why wouldn't that, as a startup, why wouldn't that be something that you do on a contract basis? I mean, is it just so legal heavy what you're doing that you need somebody to do that full-time?
So we've been working with kind of a part-time general counsel actually through Notre Dame up until now. But yes, I mean, between procurement, contracting, insurance, legal, even just for pilots, it is contract after contract after contract. And so our name of the game is minimize procurement friction. Get our product in the hands of these government inspectors, decision makers quicker, and legal barriers to entry are a huge kind of part of friction there. And so having a full-time general counsel to understand our business, be able to go through those contracts, review them more efficiently, that will help us streamline the procurement process, as opposed to doing more of a kind of an ad hoc model. Yes, maybe it could work in some instances, but from what we've heard from other government startups, having go-to lawyer to remove that friction will just save you a lot of headaches going forward. And even like the Department of Transportation, they had like 20, 40 page pilot contract. We needed to mark up some stuff, and having kind of our guy on the side helped us to get our product in their hands quicker and get that ROI data validated much quicker.
All right, Seema.
So government employees are salary-based and they are not incentivized to do more routes, right? If they have 5 tasks to perform, they are not really incentivized to do 5 or 6. So, and your model heavily relies on enabling the city to perform more. How do you going to address if the people on the ground do not actually use that optimized model and the city doesn't really gain the value?
Yeah, so what's interesting is we've actually been able to talk to a lot of the inspectors, both in the DOB and the DOT. And what we found is a lot of them actually don't like getting stuck in traffic. So at least early on, what happens is they're being sent to all the way across Manhattan and then they have to drive back. And they hate that, right? So they actually prefer spending more of that time doing inspections and being more efficient for their agency.
All right, we're gonna go middle up front. Andres?
I'm gonna riff a little bit on the question about the cities. You have a very fragmented market, right? Thousands of agencies. What do your customer acquisition costs look like? And how does that look like as you work down from the largest agencies in the largest city in the country down to smaller ones?
Yeah, so, favorably for us, a lot of cities are derivative of New York in terms of operation. So for New York specifically, our customer acquisition costs are founder-led sales, legal, insurance, and because those are fixed costs, once we get one agency and then another, the economies of scale help to spread those costs amongst more revenue. So because our implementation costs are low, our customer acquisition cost is fixed, each new incremental customer starting with New York will just give us more operating leverage. And then once we sign New York, we'll have roughly, I think 14, 15 million of total revenue just from one city. That'll give us roughly, 10 million in net cash to then invest in, full-time sales reps. And that's really when we're putting the fuel on the fire. Those sales reps, fully loaded costs will be anywhere from $250K to $300K a year. And yet the average contract value is $1 million a year. So that's 3-4 CAC payback immediately that we can then invest in more sales, more development. And that's what I was kind of talking about earlier, that flywheel effect. The more customers we get, the more profit we receive to then invest in acquiring more and more and more. And that's how we scale more efficiently.
We're going to go upright, Amit.
Yes, so I have a question on the competitive side. So when you look at companies like Y Systems, that's also involved in New York and working with larger fleet management, and also kind of AI route optimization, and then looking at kind of adjacent competitors like Samsara, like how do you differentiate from the other competitors that are already working in a similar route optimization space and already have access to New York and other locations?
So in terms of the specific inspection optimization, there's no other player in New York right now. I think Samsara is a kind of a private business that focuses on large corporations, DHL, FedEx types of companies. So they're focused on bigger kind of corporate fishes to fry, whereas we're focused on New York. And back to the kind of the competitive slide, all the competitors are focused more on the demand side of inspection. So how do we receive inspection requests better? How do we validate those? How do we organize those? Which interestingly enough has just kind of surged the demand. But then on the field execution side of things, as Tom mentioned, it's paper pushing. So there's a complete disconnect there. You're putting fuel to the fire of more inspections, but then the execution side, it's paper-based. And we help to reconcile that with automation. We take the messy city data, run it through our automation, clean, actionable, efficient routes. And then the predictive AI on top of that allows us to collect data, say, okay, well, maybe, next month we need more inspectors in Brooklyn, less in Staten Island. We need to, Tommy's been kind of lazy. We need to move his spots to Joe, and all these kind of optimization factors that expand us beyond just routing. We're a predictive AI tool that learns and learns with more of the data we receive, which just further embeds ourselves or further embeds our moat, because other players, it'll take them years and years and years to, first of all, get through the bureaucracy, ingest all that data, create routes, and that will be our kind of barrier to entry that'll keep us, sustainable.
Let's go to Kent, Lucas, front, middle.
Yes, flywheel doesn't really come to mind when we think of government agency.
Hey, speak up.
Sorry, sorry, I'll skip that. I guess, so I was saying it's just really hard to get to municipalities, right? And so I think you're solving it by ESRI and teaming up with them. Expand on that, because at the end of the day, you probably have it's your first mover advantage, since if you look at the tech and the competitors, they can ultimately get there. Just double click on how you're going to expand fragmented markets like others alluded to. I'm just trying to I'm missing a piece of really how you're going to scale this.
So kind of like I responded to the other gentleman's question. So the common denominator in all cities is that they use ESRI mapping already. So that's a built-in infrastructure. They pay millions and millions of dollars. And so rather than do cold outreach initially, which we've done more for learning, not for distribution at this stage, that has showed us that we need kind of a standardized way to distribute to each of these cities. And so in New York, we're working with Esri's team there to outline 10, 15, 20 feature layers that Routura and Esri's kind of adjunct technologies unlock, which makes Esri's existing mapping licensees in New York more sticky, because the city's like, okay, I want heat layer maps, I want analytics with Routura and Esri, and then we say, okay, well, you got to buy more Esri licensees, you got to buy more Routura licensees. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship there, and then we take that model and we distribute to Chicago, LA, Houston. They have connection. The Esri people have connections with the decision makers. They understand the needs better, and so we take the New York model, what feature layers we outline there, and then just apply it to each city who, again, already has that Esri mapping layer. And that's the common denominator that standardizes our distribution plan, as opposed to, again, like knocking on the door and all that.
Thank
But anyways,
you
yes,
so much, Routura from Notre Dame and Texas. All right, if Alteras Medtech can make their way to the stage, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Click out the clicker here. Yeah. I think the clicker like kind of. Can we turn this off and log out? Let me go to the. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. I don't know where it went. I think we're on the map. Okay. It should be on our camera. Oh, this is just a visual. Okay. Let's get you over here. Oh, yeah. Okay. You might put it on the screen. Oh, yeah. Ellen.
You guys ready? All right. We're going to get started again. Oh, I got another breaking news. Just learned some new information. If you remember back in 2021, there was a team from Aachen who came in third place. And it's another Alex. So Alex, come over here. Alex got some exciting things to share about FiberCode.
I got to know about this 30 seconds ago, so I'm not prepared like those guys. Yeah, I have the possibility to pitch us for 1 minute. First of all, thank you to Goose Capital, to Ashok Rao especially, and to Ty Houston for investing in us. After we came third in 2021 at Rise Business Plan competition, that time it was just virtual. That was a little bit sad, but it was a great experience. And from that time on, we came every year here through Ashok, mentoring teams, this time judging. I'm since almost 1 year living in Houston, also through RBPC. Thank you very much. My main goal here is to push our business. We are producing metallized glass fibers, which are primarily used in EMI shielding for composites, for textiles. We are the second largest producer for radar countermeasures, which are in every fighter jet and helicopters in the world. And if you have any connections to the huge companies like Lockheed Martin, BAE Systems, Raytheon, and can open doors for us, that would help a lot. Thank you very much.
All right. Another elevator pitch. And with that, we have Alteras Medtech from the University of Arkansas.
Hi, we are Alteras Medtech, and we would like you to meet. Is it on? It says it's on. Support? Everybody hear me now? Yes. Yes. Perfect. We want you to meet Thompson. He's a 5-year-old kid. Go back. All right, what about now? Is that better? Better? Still not so great? All right, I'm just gonna belt it out. How about we try that?
All right, is that better? All right, let's go. All right, meet Thompson. He's a 5-year-old kid, and on average, most of the time of the year, he's pretty okay. But during the winter months, he gets sick a ton with strep throat. That means he's in urgent cares about every 3 weeks, getting this swab jammed down his throat. Thompson hates this test more than anything else in the world. And I know why, because I'm actually his father. And I would have to go with him to these urgent care visits, hold him down when he absolutely refused to get it done. Now, what we didn't realize, though, is that on the other end of this swab is a clinician who's equally frustrated with this test. Nurses and doctors don't just wake up saying, yeah, I feel like wrestling kids today. That's just not what they do. What's worse is the rapid test that they most often use fails 30% of the time. This struggle where you're trying to swab kids and patients adds an extra 5 minutes onto the total time of the visit. We validated with patients, parents, and clinicians that if there was a more comfortable test, it would solve all of these problems. My name is Lance Lockwood, CEO.
My name is Joseph Hobbs, CTO and inventor.
Joseph and I have spent a ton of time in urgent cares, talking to clinicians, doctors, and we've done over 122 customer discovery interviews. And the message is clear. Clinicians want a faster test that's simpler to use than what they are currently doing. Patients want something that's effective without actually choking them.
And that's why we've created Strep Detect. And with the Strep Detect method, all a clinician will have to do is grab one of our single-use spray canisters that will come in a variety of flavors, spray the diagnostic at the back of the throat, and then in 2 minutes, they can view the throat with a light. They can see the back of the throat, and if they see a glow, they know. It's that simple and that accurate. Unlike our main competitor, which is the traditional rapid test that takes about 80% of all US testing. Now it's fast, but it's inaccurate, leading to backup throat cultures, which actually can take up to 48 hours to get a diagnosis. What we're doing is we're taking the swab and the pain of strep testing and the problem, and we're getting rid of it, increasing comfort while maintaining speed and accuracy, as well as testing for active infection, all creating a more efficient workflow. Like Lance said, we've gone to the clinics and we've validated these complex steps and the time that it takes them to run one strep test. And it takes 16 minutes for them to do a simple test that could be done with Strep Detect in a simple and more efficient way in just under 3 minutes, saving the clinic 13 minutes. Now, 13 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but looking at it annually, 13 minutes turns into 633 hours of staff time saved, and also a more efficient time slot so they can see 422 more patients that were in the waiting room before. Along with the time savings, there's also a $26,000 in reduced testing costs for the clinic, all equaling $90,000 in net benefit per clinic per year for just 13 minutes.
At Alteras, we were founded to help people. And with Strep Detect, that means there's no more swabbing. And at urgent care, just one single urgent care, that means 3,248 happy patients.
Now, let's take a closer look at the technology that I've been working on for the past 2 years and the chemistry behind it and how active infection really works. So Strep A bacteria are in the back of the throat, and they're actually causing the problems that the clinic is seeing. It's by releasing a specific enzyme, and that's our target. Our reagent molecule is inactive until it comes into contact with our target enzyme, causing it to activate and producing that glow. Once they see the glow at the back of the throat, that indicates an active Strep A infection rather than our competitors who just test for the presence of the bacteria. In the early validation, you can see a clear yes or no signal with the fluorescence, with our reagent, with the enzyme, and when it's without the enzyme. Now, early lab validation has turned into our provisional patent application that we were able to apply for in January that covers the methodology as well as the chemical structure of the diagnostic itself. Now, this isn't without its critical risks. Specificity for any diagnostic is one of the bigger risks. We've implemented our first stage of our mitigation strategy as we have done a small panel with 2 other strep strains showing clear no activation, as well as saliva interference can really activate stuff with the saliva. There's other things that could react. And we've done a research grade saliva panel as the first step of our mitigation strategy, which has shown no activation. Now, clinical sensitivity is another major hurdle. We want to make sure that we're comparable to the rapid test and the throat cultures. So we're going to be doing in the next 3 months clinical sample testing, running alongside comparator trials with the actual rapid test and the throat culture. Now, regulatory timeline is one of the major hurdles to bringing this to the market. Our FDA pathway starts next month as we will hire on a regulatory consultant to help mitigate our path forward, as well as we move forward with analytical validation, toxicity testing, so we know it's safe and effective before going to clinical trials. Then we will get our in-clinic use label in 2028 with the FDA to start selling to urgent cares. Now, de novo pathway has a higher barrier to entry. However, our main diagnostic component has been researched in the field and has been used for decades. So we believe that we will get through this.
All right, so let's talk about the size of the prize. There's around 600 million cases globally of strep every single year, giving us a TAM of $4 billion. Now, unfortunately, only about 1/3 of the population is actively testing for strep, giving us a SAM of 1.3 billion. Currently, we're focused strictly on the US market, which is around 18 million cases for $122 million SOM. But we're getting that traction started in our hometown of Northwest Arkansas, where we actually signed a letter of intent with Community Clinic, who has 4 school clinics where actually kids can go during the day and be seen, and 27 urgent cares.
Using that early traction, that fuels our go-to-market strategy as we start with Community Clinic as our first pilot program, so we can gather data on the impact of Strep Detect over those 31 clinics. And then closer to market launch, we'll have key opinion leaders doing outreach events so we can bring that trusted data and validity to other urgent cares, expanding our partnered urgent cares to 250 by market launch. Closer to market launch as well, we'll have a ground-up digital marketing campaign, as well as targeted ads for parents in the areas that we're selling, so they go to our website and find the urgent cares that are using our technology.
So our business model is simple by design. Urgent cares will do about 9 tests per day on average for strep. Priced at $8.46, that would generate $27,000 in revenue for just a single clinic. But you have to remember, we're not starting with one clinic. The goal is to start with 250. That would generate $6.7 million in revenue over 12 months. This is around a 1% market capture. And the goal by 2030 is to have 2,000 clinics online using Strep Detect, generating $42 million in revenue and $14 million in EBITDA. But there is something I have not told you. And that is, to date, in the US, there is no at-home testing kit for strep. Because at the end of the day, parents do not want to swab their kids. It's just impractical. That's why we're developing an at-home testing kit that would be available in 2030, because it would take a little bit longer to get through the FDA process, but it would have the same chemistry that the urgent cares are using, but without that urgent care cost. Because it would be $20 at retail, would hopefully be available at Walgreens or Walmart, where parents are already shopping when their kids are sick. Now, I showed you 122 million. That was just for urgent cares. When we go to at-home testing, we triple our revenue. But you also have to remember, only 1 in 4 people actually have strep when they actually have a sore throat. This generates $1.4 billion for at-home sore throat market.
Looking to the future, when we talk to clinicians and parents, there's other tests that our technology could enhance as we look to expand our platform past strep A.
The goal is to reach $200 million in revenue by 2035 for $1.6 billion valuation. Most likely acquirers are medtech companies already playing in the space like Abbott, BD, and Roche. Today, we're raising our $3.5 million seed round of funding. This will fund us all the way through the FDA process, our tech, and our team, and get us ready for go-to-market when we do a Series A round.
This is a balanced founding team as we blend business and technical expertise. With myself being the inventor of this technology, I've been working on it for the past 2 years, and I'm so passionate about it that I brought it forward into a graduate program that's self-funded and self-guided because I want to see this become a reality.
And I have over 10 years of business CPG experience, but more importantly, I'm a father of 2 boys. And one day I want to be able to go home and tell them this swab is no longer needed. To back us up, we have an amazing board of advisors with decades of experience in biotech, research, and go-to-market. Please join us in making painless strep testing a reality.
All right, let's start with questions right up front on the right. Judges, please raise your hand if you have a question.
Thank you. My question is around the one-time use. You said it was one-time use, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you looking into making at least the bottom portion of the bottle recyclable? Because I get the spray part because of the closeness to the mouth, but what about the bottom piece, reducing just the one-time use waste?
Absolutely.
Other
Absolutely. Yeah, we are definitely researching how we can do that efficiently, while also just like not actually spreading more strep, but it's 100% on our mind.
Robert.
Is there going to be a need to take a photo of the light to enter into the medical record? First part question. Second, is a colorblind clinician going to be able to see the glow?
It's a great question. I'm actually colorblind.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. And actually, we can talk to more clinicians about color blindness. It's a fluorescence, so it's also an intensity of the glow. So that can potentially help with that as well.
Why don't you show the slide with the photo? I keep hitting that.
Lamar, up here on the right.
So is there any toxicity to what you're spraying in the mouth? And do you have to have a special light for it to glow?
Yes, so the safety is the major component is the fluorescein. That's the main reactive component in that. And FAM has actually been used in gastrointestinal studies as well as ophthalmology studies for decades. So that's why we believe that it'll be a low toxicity, but we will be doing toxicity testing as we go. And then to the light, to your point, it's just an LED with a filter over it. So it's just going to be like a low grade LED with a filter.
All right, Venkat, right over here on the right.
When I compare to the gold standard antigen test, what is the sensitivity and specificity of this test?
So we've seen early validation of the specificity with 2 other strep strains. Now to the gold standard with sensitivity, we will be running comparator trials with the rapid test as well as the throat culture. And there's a study, researchers in South Korea are actually using the same type of fluorogenic substrate, not our designed molecule, but one of their own to test for periodontitis. And they've seen sensitivity levels of up to 90 to 94%, those on par with like PCR testing.
Are we going to go to Richard, then Babir, then Susan?
Great presentation, thanks. And a real problem, right? My own daughter has been a false negative on the rapid tests twice and gotten really sick because she was misdiagnosed. What fraction of bacterial sore throats in kids aren't strep? And would you see those? Because they would need antibiotics, right?
Yeah, so we're seeing like, you know, if you have 100 people walk in for a sore throat, only 25 of those are actually going to have strep throat.
But what about out of the 100, the number that are bacterial and should get antibiotics but aren't strep?
Yeah, so what we've seen from literature and talking to clinicians is that most of the time, around 95% of bacterial infections with strep throat are actually caused by group A streptococcus, which is what ours is identifying.
All right, we're going to go left over there. Barbara.
Good presentation, thank you. What's the shelf life of the thing? And then when it starts deteriorating, so if the parents pass beyond certain date, will it still work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, like Lance said, we're talking with manufacturers because we're going to be doing a 2-chambered system. That way it stays in a lyophilized powder first, so it can be mixed at point of care when they're doing the diagnosis. And looking at like the rapid tests, they also use a lyophilized powder. And then that actually can last anywhere from 12 to 24 months on a shelf life since it's not in the solution.
Susan.
You talked about saving 633 hours of staff time per year. Can you talk to us about the assumptions you built into that math?
Yes, so staff time freed. So we're looking at 633 hours because of the 13 minutes 4 times the 13 minutes times they see around 25 like actual time slots times the amount of patients that they'll see, the 3,825. So that's how we get the 633 hours. And then that builds into $18 an hour for the medical assistant for the $11,000 in savings for that.
All right, any questions? All right, Eric.
You showed the pictures of the fluorescing in the tube. Have you ever actually sprayed this into someone's throat and seen it work in a person?
Yeah, so that's what we will be doing. First, we have to do clinical sample trials with that. And then that's when we'll do clinical trials with actually spraying in the throat. So over the next 3 months, that's when we're implementing our strategy.
What is the chance that it works great in a test tube, but then when you actually put it in someone's throat, there's a problem?
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the risks and why we're starting that mitigation over the next 3 months with like limit of detection and sensitivity. Now, what we're looking at with like the bacterial and where they are. So the enzyme that we're targeting is the most upregulated during active infection. So it sends it out into the saliva by where it's actually infecting. And there's high enough at the back of the throats and the tonsils for them to actually see like the white spots. So we're predicting with the spray at the back of the throat that it'll be able to capture that type of sensitivity.
All right, let's go to Seema on the right.
Could you explain how would the at-home testing kit could actually help a patient connect with a physician that requires to see the test result for prescribing the antibiotics?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've actually thought about this. And the at-home test, basically all you would do, you'd get the kit and it would come with a filter or the light. And the filter we've been testing to put over the flash point of the camera when you take a flash. And then you can see the glow and it captures the fluorescence from that flash point. And then you could just upload it to the doctor for a telehealth. So that way you keep your pediatrician in the loop as well. Or you could go to your local pharmacy, or if your kid's at school, the nurse could do that as well.
All right, we're going to go right up the middle.
How have you calculated the lost wages of patients that are not coming into the actual doctor's office? And is there actually a risk assessment for any misdiagnosis if someone actually did have something that your product prevented them from getting a doctor's opinion?
Yeah, my calculations around that for like average workers around like $16 an hour is around $600 all in. That's urgent care, lost wages, the cost of the prescription. And then do you want to?
Yeah, and then ours is specific for strep A. So once we get those validation through clinical trials, that's when we'll have those harder numbers for like sensitivity and specificity combining to accuracy for those claims that we'll make when we go to market.
Here, you guys had a bunch of other tests that you were thinking about putting together. Two questions. One, help us understand the probability that your test will work, your technology will work on that. And then do those need to also go through a clinical trial, or will this clinical trial substantiate that methodology?
Yeah, so we're looking at this substantiating that methodology and then just changing the structure. Just like viruses, we'll be looking at more of like an antigen antibody because that's more prevalent for viruses. Now bacteria, there's other enzymes that other bacterial infections make that we can target as well. Yes, yes. The methodology, since the methodology, we can potentially assume a predicate from our own, from this first one.
Which could potentially be a shorter time frame than going de novo.
We have time for one more question. All right, Wendy.
Hi, great presentation. Who's going to take you through the FDA process? As you know, it's very complicated and you need expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've identified two FDA consultants that we've really liked. One's kind of like around the Vanderbilt University that we worked with. And the other one I've just recently met through another co-founder. So we're looking at partnering with one of those and they will help guide us through that whole process.
All right, and with that, thank you, Alteras Medtech. Legion platforms can come down. Thank you.
How are you?
Great, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I'm JR.
Chris Vento, nice to meet you, JR.
Nice to meet you.
I'm gonna have to wait for St. Duel, it's just his laptop.
Yeah, go ahead, get wired in. I'll just give you guys a couple of notes. What's your,
St. Duel?
All right. How's it going?
It's good, man. I'm excited to be here. I'm having a blast. This is the first one of these I've done in a very long time, so.
You want to get plugged in?
You know what? It's his computer, so I'm gonna have to wait for his password to get it all set up.
Looks like that's over here.
Yeah. Should have grabbed mine, but. We can just wait. There might be some notifications.
That's
on the might, yeah.
Test.
Yeah, we're good.
Test.
Like the screen up there. Oh, you did? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
I just don't want
Ah,
notifications
okay,
to pop
okay.
up with private information or anything like that. So have people mostly been just standing back here and looking? Is that kind of what they've been doing?
Yeah, I would say, mic, it seems like the mic's working.
Test.
Okay.
Test. Test.
Oh, does
Yeah,
it
it's
work?
on. Test.
Okay. The mics seem like they're going in and out back here.
Right, they're better up there. There's something happening here with the frequencies cancel out there.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys a mic so you're back here.
Yeah, it doesn't work. We can click it off. Okay. Hey, how's it going? How's it going? Good. Thank you. We're very pumped to be here. Okay.
I'll leave it over here. So if you guys are over here.
If it doesn't work out well.
I don't know if you'll be able to hear.
Test. Yeah. Test.
You know what? Kind of the way we have this set up is we don't have to click our own slides because it's a little interactive. So it would be possibly both of us if we can get the presentation. But we can think on our feet real quick. If it doesn't work, I can start thinking. You can jump forward.
Okay.
If not, I'll get Mike.
Can't hear it?
All right. Ready.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just say Mike and I can talk to you on this.
And I'll leave that mic here.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Setting this up right now.
Yeah, so as you get set up, here's like most important things to know. Matt is sitting with that clock right there. It's gonna count down to 20. We've got 10 minutes for pitch.
Right.
If you go over, it's gonna be it. On the Q&A.
Wait, they let you go over?
If you go, you got like 10, whatever.
10 seconds left? Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you guys.
Okay.
Like, if you point your picture, and then when it gets to Q&A, I'll field the questions, and I'll say left and right, and I'll try to get the judges to raise their hand as they're answering questions. And there'll be a runner with a mic. Okay. When you see that clock come down at 0.
Yeah. So just to confirm, we got 10 minutes, but you won't stop us if we go like 9:50 or something, and then once it hits 0, it's all done, right?
Yeah. Like if you see it coming down, just wrap up your answer.
All right.
Yeah, this is the biggest crowd I've ever talked about.
Yeah, who cares? We're gonna win. Get this done.
So he told you how to do this with, so switch it over whenever.
It's barely audible, so it's gonna be okay.
So if they can't hear us, he said to grab this mic right here. You're not there. If they can't hear it.
Test.
Okay.
All right, cool.
My other technician is coming down with a clicker. Would that be preferable?
Yes. Clicker would be preferable.
Yeah, so he said that if we like talk.
Are they gonna add a clicker? They're gonna add a clicker. You have a clicker? If he wants to add one, they have one, but it's got a, Mike's gonna go get it.
No worries, we can do it right now. We're good.
Lights coming down, I think.
Oh, he's got it. We're good.
USB,
All right.
The left or right? Left or right? Okay.
All right, cool. Now you're done. Speak up, guys.
So we can walk.
We got a real live.
You need to get up across the crowd. You can help with sound, you need a modulator. Yeah, for sure.
All right, everyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So some more breaking news. So I found out that we have some other RBPC winners. I think they're upstairs. So we have Business Alex from Hydrotech in, was it 22? In 2022, RBPC winner. And I think Chris Wilmer is upstairs as well. There he is. There's Chris, co-founder of Pneumat Technologies from 2012. That's right. So before we start our last pitch, if you're a judge, please have your submissions in by 4 p.m. If you're giving a prize, please send a note to our team by 4:30. And when you're going downtown, we learned do not take Travis. If your route is taking you to Travis, there's a block party that's going on. It's a full service operation here. So do not take Travis to get to. And where is the banquet tonight? Well done. You've been well trained. And with that, Legion Platforms from Arizona State University.
Hi, everyone. We're Legion Platforms, and we're building games for everyone. Meet Joshua. He wants to play great games, but he can't. He has a bad computer. He has slow internet, and unfortunately, he can't download any games or applications on his bad computer at all. But Joshua is not alone. In fact, there are billions of people like Joshua. The United Nations estimates that 2.6 billion people worldwide have a bad computer, slow internet, or can't download any applications like games. And Fortune magazine estimates that gaming is a $280 billion market. So that's why we exactly set out to build a solution for this. And our solution is we create games that Joshua can play on his bad computer, he can play it on his slow internet, and best of all, he doesn't have to download or install any of our games. Therefore, we have fixed Joshua's problem. Joshua is one of our 16 million monthly active users worldwide across 190 countries, and 70% of our users are from the United States and Europe. So we have a strong amount of traction, and we're growing this number out every single day. Some of our games include Core.io, which is a multiplayer first-person shooter game, and Plunder.io, which is a multiplayer pirate survival game. For Core.io, you click play now and you are instantly in the game within seconds, just like that. I've also attached an image of the shop where you can buy characters, upgrades, coins, all for real money. So we generate revenue off of that. For Plunder.io, you click play now and you are instantly in this beautiful pirate world where you can sail around, compete against other players, fish, and ultimately become #1 in the pirate world. So a lot of people enjoy it. Some games that we have releasing soon include Surf Race, where you surf on an obstacle course, compete against other players, and become #1 again, and Prestige, which is more of an educational game where you can play the shark, turtle, orca, and explore the marine wildlife ecosystem. And of course, we have many more games coming up soon. Now, how have we built these games that can run on these bad computers and slow internet? We've done that by building amazing technology, and all of our technology is proprietary, built by our team, and starts with Legion 3D, which is optimized 3D graphic technology that optimizes the polygons in our games. We do the same for 2D art, so textures, UI, icons, and we also have the Legion engine, which is the most important thing here because we've built our own game engine, which has games that we can run on these bad computers. We create the games through our own game engine. And this is the Legion engine in action. This is our game engine. We've created so many wonderful games. All of our games are created through the Legion engine, and this is our own proprietary technology that we've built. Now, how do we have 16 million monthly users? Great question as well. We do partner campaigns with our partner companies like Microsoft. Our ads have reached 140 million impressions worldwide. Social media like TikTok, Instagram, we have reached 80 million views worldwide, sponsorships and publishing on platforms. Some of these platforms include Microsoft, which we partnered with Microsoft actually 9 months ago to publish our games on the Microsoft Edge browser, and now they promote it to nearly all Windows devices. Discord now has games on their platform as well, and we publish games directly on there. And YouTube now has games on the youtube.com website, and we publish our games there. Pokey, Miniplay, Crazy Games, and Now.gg, great companies that we've been partnered with for many years, and we're on the front pages of all of these platforms as we speak. So the competitive landscape is us. We're Legion Games. We run on bad internet. We run on slow computers. We're 3D and multiplayer, which the users really want, free to play. And most importantly, our file size is 7 megabytes. Look at the competitors though. Call of Duty from Activision, Fortnite from Epic Games, Zelda from Nintendo. They don't run on bad internet. They don't run on slow computers. Some of them are 3D and multiplayer, but Call of Duty is not free to play. It's $80 and Zelda is $90. And if you look at the file size of the game, that's 242 gigabytes, but I put it in megabytes just to show you how much of a difference their file size is compared to us. We're at 7 megabytes and they're at 242,000 megabytes. I had to change the slide to incorporate that number. And also Slither.io, one of our web-based competitors, it doesn't run on bad internet. It runs on slow computers, 3D and multiplayer. It is free to play, but also it is 86 megabytes for a game that isn't even multiplayer. So we are way ahead of the competitors. So we generate revenue through advertisements on our games, in-app purchases, in-game real estate, and licensing. So here's some revenue generation examples. We have a partnership with Disney. They advertise their Disney Plus shows like The Mandalorian. People see these advertisements and we generate revenue off of that. Coca-Cola and Amazon all actively advertise their products on our games and we generate revenue off of that as well when people see these ads. In-app purchases for events like Christmas, Halloween, we had a Halloween bundle to our game and we sold it for $4.99, $7.99, and a lot of people purchase it as well. So we have a very strong business model. And our advertisers include Amazon, Disney, Netflix, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Universal, household names. And we work directly with the campaign managers of these companies because they want to advertise for 16 million monthly users, and we make that happen. So let's go over the past 1 year of growth. In June 2025, we were at 8 million users worldwide. In December, we were in the scaling phase with 12 million users worldwide. And here we are in April with 16 million users worldwide, and we're in the increasing revenue phase. In December, we will be at 30 million users in the product expansion phase. And our long-term 2028 goal is mass expansion at 150 million users worldwide. And we will get there. And let me hand it off to Chris.
Thanks, Sandul. So as a reformed Wall Street guy, I'm going to walk you through a few more of our key metrics, how we make money, and how, most importantly, we're going to become a rice unicorn. So just to repeat, we have 16 million monthly active users. We've 5x that growth in the past 12 months. We're at 14 million new users with $0 customer acquisition spend. We have 27 games on our platform, and we're currently doing between $40,000 and $50,000 a month of revenue. So a few key reasons of why we think our users are valuable. We have day 1 retention rates of 63% versus an industry average of 20. We have day 7 retention of 28% versus an industry average of 6. And day 30 retention of 18% versus an industry average of 3. Our users spend an average of 18 to 22 minutes on our platform, return 12 to 14 times per month, and 60% of them have created an account, adding to switching costs. And another thing a key point we'd like to drive home here is that 70% of our users are in tier 1 markets like the United States and Europe. That was a lot of numbers. So let's talk about how we make money today. So today we are primarily an ad revenue-based product. Currently, we're making about 43 cents per 1,000 interactions on our platform. Now, one of the things that we want to use capital for is to build out our own ad network, similar to how YouTube did it at the same scale. So if we do that, we're going to triple our revenue right off the bat. And a few other key areas that we've identified as revenue drivers are reward videos, which are about $1.83 per 1,000 interactions, cosmetic in-app purchases, which we started tinkering with and slowly pulling these levers, and we're at about an average spend of just north of $5. Battle Pass subscriptions, for those of you that are in VC, MRR here, and we're averaging about $12 per spend on those per user. And then another really exciting thing that we're doing is brand partnerships. So for this, think of things like beverage companies like Coca-Cola that put a bottle in the game that you can interact with. And those are averaging about $10 per 1,000 interactions. All right, so that was a lot of numbers. How do we get to $1 billion valuation? So right now we're sitting at that 50 to 60K revenue mark. We have a goal of hitting $300,000 a month by the end of the year. And we're going to do that predominantly through growing our user base to 30 million per month, and also building out that ad network. So that's really exciting, but what we're most excited about is our long-term plans. So right now we're following the Fortnite strategy, which is to build a massive loyal user base first, before we start turning on these monetization paths of battle passes and in-app purchases. So what that might look like, or what that's going to look like on our plan, is that a 3-year plan of hitting $2 million a month, with anywhere from 50 to 70% of that being from reoccurring revenue. And our long-term plan to scale to $1 billion is hitting 100 million monthly active users
driving that ARPU up to $1.05. And we're going to do that through our Battle Pass subscriptions, our in-app purchases, and hopefully scaling that up to our $1 billion valuation.
And that's where we get to our ask. What we need is $1 million, and we're going to use this money incredibly effectively. We're going to use 30% to increase our revenue by building our own advertising network that Chris was talking about, 25% to build new games and technology faster. Our users want more games to play, and we will provide that for them. 25% to increase our user base by marketing our games across the world, and most importantly, 20% to expand revenue by adding content to our existing games, the existing games that get these 16 million monthly active users that people want updates for, and we will also get those users their updates. So I'm Sandul. I'm the founder and CEO of Legion Platforms. I started this company at 15 in high school, and now I'm 20 and I'm a junior in college. But most importantly, I had this problem growing up, and a lot of my friends did, which is why we started this company.
I'm Chris. I'm the COO. I have a background, or I'm an MBA candidate at ASU, and I have a background in the hedge fund and private equity space where I've deployed over $100 million capital, and I built a 7-figure business in between classes in college.
And Mason, who's our Chief Design Officer at Legion Platform, Arts and Media graduate, 11 years of experience in the gaming industry, has built many games before. Same with Tyler Evans, who's our Chief Technology Officer, computer science graduate as well, gaming industry veteran. He's built 10 million plus user games, and he also had a lot of experience in the advertising space as well. So we really have the dream team to get this done. And that's our goal. 30 million users by the end of this year. We want a long-term goal is making our games a household name. We want everybody in this room to know about our games in 3, 4, 5 years from now. Build and release 18 new games. And most importantly, let's become a rice unicorn and build a $1 billion gaming company. Thank you.
All right, let the questions begin. Let's go right up here on the right.
Hello, a good presentation. I'm a reformed gamer. I don't have the time like I used to, but so where's your growth coming from? Is it coming from new? I'm right here.
Oh.
Is it coming from new games, or your old games just kind of really sticky? And then also, what's your exit strategy? That, at least to my knowledge, there haven't been a lot of platform or browser-based exits. Most of them have been a studio of some type. What's your exit strategy going forward?
Okay, so first of all, the growth is really coming from, yes, new games that we are releasing, which is why we're actively working on new games. And also our games have incredibly high word of mouth growth potential as well. For example, each of our games have a referral system. So we reward people coins for referring other users. And because we're web-based, people can send links quickly to people and they can share the game. So that's how we've had rapid growth. And the exit strategy is really, we want to become a $1 billion company. And that can either be through getting acquired after that, or we can go towards an IPO. The bottom line is, the goal that we up here, this is our mission. We want to become a $1 billion gaming company, and we want everybody in the world to know about our games.
Great job, guys.
I'll meet you right over here.
So you're only raising $1 million, and currently you have 0 CAC. So what if you started spending some money on marketing and raise some more money to do that? Why are you not doing that? Raise some more money and get to that $1 billion valuation faster.
So this is a great question, because we have a very strong advantage in our business with the fact that we actually don't need to spend money to acquire users, because users, we don't need to spend money to acquire them, because our games are already acquiring users themselves. The products are acquiring users, which is what we found. Majority of our users have come from word through mouth, and that's the strongest thing. And people are saying, we want new games. We want you to build new games. We want updates to our existing games. And if you do that, I'll tell more of my friends about the game, and I'll play more of the game myself. And that's really why we've had rapid growth. It would cost millions of dollars to acquire the user base that we have today for other companies to try that, but we haven't spent that. So I think a better strategy is building the best product in the world. And we've already had results from that. We've already had incredible results with these 16 million users. And just think about a year ago, today, we've added about 12 million users over the past 1 year. So we've had incredible growth, and we're really doubling down on that. So to answer the question, I think the most important thing that we need to focus on is building what got us these users in the first place.
All right, we're going to go to the left. Victor, raise your hand, please.
Congrats on your PLG strategy. How much does it cost to make a new game, and how much does it cost to launch a new game?
Yes. So This is a great question. We actually wanted this question because we have gotten our costs incredibly low. It costs about $3,000 to build and release a new game. And it takes now about 4 days for us to build a new game on our engine. And we're only able to do that because we've built our own tech to do that. Then to put that into perspective, it takes competitors months or sometimes years to go and build a game that is similar to what we can build in 3 days or 4 days with $3,000.
All right. Let's go over here and then we'll go to Seema.
So
Then we'll go to David.
Great presentation. I was just curious if you're familiar with itch.io. It's a browser-based 3D gaming platform that also allow other users to upload their games as well. So I'm just curious if you're aware of them and also how you plan to compete against them.
Of course, this is a great question as well. Of course, we're aware of them. It's actually quite funny because we publish our games on itch.io too. So we reach their users, but most importantly, itch.io, their goal as a platform is for game developers to actually share their games with other game developers. So it's more like a game developer community, but what we're doing is we're prioritizing those people with bad computers and slow internet. In fact, on itch.io, most of the games require a download, but our games don't require a download at all. So that's the really simple answer to the question is itch.io is not focused on accessibility. They're focused with game developers sharing their projects to other game devs, but they're download focused. We are not downloaded. We don't need to be downloaded at all.
We're going to go Seema and over to David and John.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your user demographics age-wise? And for underage or minors, do you require parental consent for the child to actually use the game?
We actually have an extra slide for that.
So this is about our users. So our average user age is about 16 to 22 years old. Our fastest growing user base is 22 to 24. 82% of our users are male, 18% are female, but our female user base has tripled within the past 2 months because we started to build games specifically for that female audience, and 8 in 10 users come back within 6 months, which is really unheard of in the gaming industry. So to answer the other question that you had, so particularly, let me go to this slide. So, for example, we have parental controls across all of our games. We don't have a chatting or messaging system. We don't have user-generated content on our games. So everything is created by us. We've had 0 incidents of any child safety issues, and our games are actually rated by the International Age Rating Coalition, which is a standard agency that rates games, and it's game rated for everyone, which is basically meaning everyone can play our games. And this is a very serious issue that we care about a lot.
Sorry, that doesn't address the child spending time playing game without permission.
Yes.
That piece is not controlled.
So we also have a slide on combating addiction. So we don't add addictive elements to our games. Our games are easy to open and close. And of course, game time limits and parental time limits. So parents, if they want their kid to play for 5 minutes, we make that happen because parents are the ultimate. They're the decision makers, not us. So that's the most important thing in our motto.
Let's go to David.
What's your pre-money valuation?
Yes. So right now we're hovering between about 10. Well,
Yeah, so right now we're looking at between 10 and 15, depending on who the capital is. We're looking for strategic partners and people that can help us grow and bring on a good advisory board.
Yeah, so the answer was 10 to 15 million.
Yes, 10 to
That's
15
right.
million.
All right, let's go to John.
Okay, quick question. So on your browser, you showed the size of that file, the 7 KB or whatever it is. I guess my one question is there any technology specific to having the small video file size? And are there any applications for that? But then it occurs to me that in a world where Starlink and other internet providers are improving download speeds, aren't you? I mean, I could see in 5 years where bad internet is not really a problem.
So I'm really glad you asked this question as well, because well, what you said was internet can get better over the next 5 years. But what you also missed is that these games get more heavy over the next 5 years too. Call of Duty, their file size increases by 5 to 10% every single year. So that means in 5 years from now, these standard AAA games like Call of Duty, Fortnite will be 50 to 70% larger. So the internet issue, if we could have said that 5 years ago, that in 2021, we could have said in 5 years, this issue won't exist, but these games have gotten larger as well. So they've become harder to download. And the way we've done it is through compression. So the most important thing, Starlink is actually great for us too, because it's expanding internet to third world countries. And some of the first games that people play as soon as they get internet are our games. So we're watching that very closely, and that's been a big part of our business growth as well.
All right, right over the clock, Andres.
Hey, So only about 5 to 10% of gamers account for like 90% of the revenue. You guys are targeting a market that's on crappy computers and crappy internet, which tells me they don't have a lot of disposable income. Can you explain to me how you expect to drive that revenue growth on a per user basis?
Yes. So let me clarify on what a crappy computer means, because this is very important. So I see a lot of people with MacBooks and very expensive looking computers, but try loading Call of Duty or Fortnite on these computers. And I don't think these people are low wealth or anything like that. So the most important thing is people have these type of computers, and these are, and 70% of our users are from the United States and Europe. These are tier 1 markets who have access to the best internet speeds, the best computers out there across the world. And this is the first market that we've broken into. And that's because a lot of the expensive MacBooks and a lot of the expensive Windows computers cannot run these games. People have to buy $4,000 or $5,000 gaming computers, and they're outdated in 2 years. They can't even run these games. So the most important thing is these users are very high spend, and they are very premium users. These are people that have MacBooks. These are people who are ready to spend, and these are people who have very high RPMs in the ad industry as well. So that's not a concern for us at the moment, because these are people who are very high spending.
Greg.
Right here, right here.
Sorry, up, down right.
Right here. Great presentation. Thank you. Got to ask the question. So what does AI do to you over the next 3 to 5 years?
I'll slide for that.
We got a slide for that. So we are ahead of the curve on AI. So thank you. Thank you. We are actually,
we thought about that. Thank you very much. We appreciate the advice.
We got a really cool technology called Legion Agents. We are ahead of the AI curve. We are an incredibly young team, so we've been able to grasp this technology incredibly quickly. As we speak right now, we have 25 AI agents that are working on our tasks as we speak. These agents build art, programming, and market our games worldwide. We use AI for getting our games top ranking on Google. And of course, we generate a lot of 3D art and graphics, and we fine-tuned these models to generate and work for our compression algorithm, which is what makes us so special. So we are AI focused. Don't worry about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question.
Yes.
And we have a slide for that. With that, give it up for Legion Platforms. All right, judges, please remember, submit your tallies by 4 p.m. If you're giving a prize by 4:30, startups, we'll see you at the showcase at 5. Everyone else, 6 p.m. See you soon.
Million.
50,000 in MRR.
Yeah, no, it's not MRR, it's ad-based revenue, right?
Yes, ad-based revenue.
About 10,000 that would be probably translated.